young, dumb American, arrogant, throwing fits, ripping shit, tearing it, imperative. Then I'm killing this mic no matter where I live. These derelict rappers acting the fool, this embarrassing is flagrant. That's the nature of this entertainment, and we can't even change it. Guilty before arraignment, now the system tainted. But when we speak, they all laugh at us. And y'all wonder why I'm lacking trust. Try to fight a giant with attorneys that can back them up. That's church versus science, both sides start acting up. I'm late on my assignment, hopping up a mile high, climbing, obviously never silent. New alignment, I'm defiant, cannot describe it. Used to describe it as a young graffiti artist. Before the beard, I always got carded. At every bar, even though my bar's been the hardest. The scars on my face, and I ain't always been the smartest. But I'll show you where my heart is. I said I'll show you where my heart is. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeves. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will ever see. I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeve. I can show you where my...
The type of guy that would ride with the breeze. I'm higher than most people. I'm cold and icicle freeze. I'm liking to Mike Tyson. I'm a bison, a beast. I'm hot like Jamaica, like right by the beach. My pops is from a spot where they're fighting for peace. 8 years old out there watching people fight in the streets. All these sirens only make the violence increase. Yeah, we're still not loving police. It's that bright young American, nice, dumb, arrogant, tight on a mic, but he might need a therapist. Heart full of kerosene, head full of fairy tales. Said that you're my homie, you don't know me, but I know you very well. Roll back on some West Coast shit. This whole track is wetter than your dress code kiss. About to hit the track, running on some retro fit. I guess so lit, I guess so bitch, now let's go.
I can show you where my heart's at. See it on my sleeves. Even if the beat stops, my soul will not leave. If I never stood tall, nobody will...
Ladies and gentlemen, Tuesday, hanging with the fellas. Well, we got a lot to discuss tonight. A lot hit the sports world in the last, I don't know how many hours a week is. I forget that number. But in the last 7 days, a lot has happened. And we have a lot to discuss. And we're going to throw a lot of things at you in the next roughly 2 hours. And it's going to be very enjoyable. So stick with us. Let's see how this goes down. Fellas, my boys, Pinky, Robert, how we doing this evening?
Excellent. Having a nice, good, stiff drink after a long day. So
yeah.
all is well.
Had a good workout at the gym tonight because I missed yesterday. Hit it hard tonight, and I am fired up and ready to go, buddy. I'm ready. I got some nonsense, boys. I mean, Robert knows because I've already talked about it. Fallout is dope.
Oh, yes.
I've been hearing really good things. I didn't play the game, so I don't have like this huge
You don't have to.
for it.
You don't have to.
I know that's what everybody's told me. Everybody says it's just good, so I'll probably end up checking it out. But I wasn't on the initial wave because I didn't play the game, so it didn't. I didn't have like this oh, gotta see it attitude. You know what I mean?
I really enjoy Walter Goggins. Like, I don't know why, but like he's just like a dude that I enjoy everything he does.
Who's Walter Goggins?
He was the villain in Tomb Raider with from the reboot a couple years ago.
I mean, he's in that. He's in Justified.
Yeah, okay. He's in Justified. He's Raylan. Raylan
he's the other guy.
Yeah, he's like his best friend growing up, and then arch nemesis, basically.
Right.
Dude, I love that guy. Okay, cool.
Oh, and he was in Vice Principals, and he was in. He's been in a lot of different things. I enjoy his work. He's in it. I love his character. His character is like one of the few that's like from the game. The other ones are kind of new characters telling the Fallout story. From what I understand, I didn't play the games either, but from what I understand, they do a pretty good job at least staying somewhat true to the canon of the game.
To a point, yes. I haven't finished the series, and I'm doing my hardest to avoid a lot of the articles right now because I have played the games. I know ish where it lands, but I know there's some controversy, so I'm kind of doing my damn hardest to avoid some spoilers right now, and seeing exactly where this happens because I just want to experience it, and then get deep dive.
Walter Goggins, and then I don't know the actress's name, but the girl that plays Lucy, who's like the main character, awesome. She's just the coolest, like fish out of water. Like bad stuff keeps happening to her and keeps testing her moral compass, and I really love that. Like, it truly shows, like, if you're a really, really good person and really bad shit keeps happening to you, how are you going to react? Are you going to change? Are you going to completely flip the other direction, or are you still going to be able to hold your moral compass and still do some bad shit along the way, right? So, it really, really fun show. Pinky approved. 2 thumbs up.
Okay.
And Ella Purnell is a wonderful actress as well, so I'm excited for her in this show because I've seen her in Yellow Jackets. She was also the voice actress in Arcane. So I know, Caleb, that's just going way over for you. The Yellow Jackets is a good supernatural flick. It's Lord of the Flies meets feral women in high school. So it's really intense. I highly recommend it if you're kind of about the supernatural horror thing. Really good. Arcane is a wonderful animation on Netflix based off of another video game. Tremendous show. Pinky, I don't know if you've ever watched that highly recommend to put it on the list. Season 2 comes out in November. Lot of good stuff there. So if you like her, you definitely will probably like some of the other stuff she's in.
So, any other nonsense from you guys? I know I threw it out there.
Going through the Bad Batch still, a few episodes left. I'm very intrigued in how it ends up with where we're at. So Caleb, we got, I think, 3 episodes to go, and then just binge it, bro.
I will. I will.
There are so many things that this sets up. I'm still trying to comprehend where this is going in 3 episodes. Especially with a lot of what's coming in the next few weeks with Tales of the Empire, Acolyte, and things. A lot of big stuff happening. So curious to see where things are going with stories. But that's really all I've got for nonsense. Nothing else really. I haven't seen Godzilla yet or anything. Monkey Man was wonderful, which Pinky we talked about last week.
We did. Monkey Man was great.
That was it, man. Nothing else really exciting happened. Oh well, Keanu's playing Shadow in the Sonic movie. I guess that's one thing if you're big into the Sonic movies. That happened, so kind of exciting to see that. See where he goes there. But
I mean, I've got a man crush on Keanu, so I get it.
I was personally hoping it was going to be Hayden, but you know, I'm rooting for this comeback for him, but we'll see what happens.
Look, if you don't like Keanu Reeves, you're doing it solely just because he's so awesome. You don't want to just admit that everybody else is right. Like that's really the only thing.
I love Keanu. Like please don't mistake. Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know, Pinky's talking about a man crush. Like I thought that was just like par for the course for everybody. That was just kind of how you roll with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, you can't hate the man. Like there's just no physical way. It's just impossible.
Luscious, beautiful man of a man. That's Keanu Reeves.
Well, speaking of the weekend, got to have a fabulous time this weekend watching UFC 300. I would say there's nothing more satisfying to just like have all of your friends come out and hang out with their significant others, watching the fights and just having a good time, you know, laid back, no pressure, no stress, and just enjoying everything that the fights have to offer. Thankfully, Robert and his wonderful wife came out. Had Andy and his girlfriend. We had Mark and his wife. Why am I missing? Your uncle came out for a little bit. So we just had friends and family. It was good. And then the fights were fun too.
I was going to say, I said my personal opinion, the card was a little lackluster. Some guys past their prime, might not get some very good fights because of it. On the whole, I'd say that's true. However, I will eat crow because one fight in one moment made the whole card worth it, in my opinion. So, it is the most epic moment in UFC history, in my opinion. And I don't think you can argue that. I just don't.
I would argue that.
What would you put above it?
So there's
One
a lot of
moment,
moments.
Caleb, I'm
One
with you on
moment.
this, man. I'm with you on this, homie.
Cheers.
All the way.
I mean,
All the way.
multiple McGregor fights.
No, you're talking fights. I said one moment, not a fight. One moment.
So
it is the defining. You will see that as the defining moment on replay for years to come when it comes to the UFC. That will be what encompasses and defines the sport. Is that one moment?
That's people like being just a creature of the moment. That fight wasn't even a good fight.
I'm not talking. I don't know how else I can help you understand this, Pinky. I'm not talking about the fight. I am talking about 10 seconds. I am talking about a snapshot. I am talking about a pure moment in time.
That just doesn't do it for me, bro.
Dude, that's ridiculous. I just no.
Was it awesome? Yeah, absolutely. Is it like the defining moment of the UFC? No.
Yeah.
Not at
yes.
all.
I think Dana White basically said as much after the fight.
And Dana White's full of shit. And he's a wife beater. So I don't want to hear it.
That's exactly what you want to like. If the UFC had a logo, it's that man pointing at the center of the ring with another man walking towards him. Like the fact that went down the way it did, and the fact that it's happened before and never ended like that, and for it to happen and end like that at UFC 300, if that doesn't happen, if that fight just ends and it's a decision, that night is lackluster. Minus one other knockout. That night is lackluster. Because of that moment, everybody is talking about it.
So, all right. I'm not going to get too deep into this because I have nothing to really talk about. I mean, I wrestled for a few years, and it was probably one of the biggest regrets in my life that I never stuck with it and went further just through my high school years. And being able to just say, hey, to your opponent, let's meet in the center and just
throw bombs.
But you know why they did that, though.
I mean, sure. But Pinky, I want to, like...
Everybody knows why they did it. Not everybody would do it. That's the
one thing you had been talking about the whole evening is that is not a 300K fight. I'm sorry. Yeah. 5 rounds of pure, like, whatever that was. But then the last 10 seconds to just call that shit and go to town. Bro, that is 300K worthy all day. And then to have that storybook finish of a 1 second knockout, bro, it can't be more historic. Like,
so we went almost to the end.
Preach.
We went almost to the end before we talked about where I could agree with Caleb. Overall, I still think the amount of fighters that they had on the card made it a good card, but the fights themselves were a little underwhelming for the most part.
Then that doesn't make it a good card, bud. Like, if the fights themselves were underwhelming, okay.
I disagree with you. And again, to me, I would take Usman versus Edwards, which is a 5-round slugfest that then Edwards knocks out Usman with like 15 seconds left with a surprising leg kick, as a better moment in UFC history than that Gaethje Holloway. And again, those two guys are in different weight classes. It wasn't for like their rankings. It was, let's get in the middle, 300,000 bonus. Let's get it. I'm happy they did. I'm happy homeboy got his signature moment. I don't like Holloway myself.
It wasn't just for the bonus. It was for the title and the pride and
that BMF title's nothing. That is worth nothing.
I think you're wrong. I think it matters to some people.
If that BMF title mattered, the next time he fought, he'd have to fight a guy at another weight class to fight for that, and they can't do that.
I don't think it matters in the sense that you're like the baddest guy. I think it matters to the guys fighting.
That's exactly what it's called.
I think it matters to the guys fighting each other that I'm going to prove to the other dude I'm the baddest mother. So it creates a good fight. We haven't had a bad BMF fight yet.
They're typically pretty good because, again, they're not worried about their rankings. They're not worried about, do I get my title shot right after this fight?
Right, because it's strictly about, it's a mano-a-mano. That's what's beautiful about the belt that I think people are missing. Who gives a shit that it's a belt? It's the fact that you get to say to the other dude, I'm the baddest mother. I just came in here and beat your ass, and I'm the baddest mother.
And
Period. You don't get to talk to me anymore. You don't get to say anything to me anymore. That's how it went down. So, yes, it was about getting the $300K prize purse. Yes, but it was also about, hey, get in here. We're going to throw bombs right now. We're going to end the fight the way these things should be done. Not running away from each other, not trying to hold each other down on the ground. We're going to do what the UFC was meant to be, which was two dudes fighting.
Do you remember Pride?
Oh, hell yeah, I remember Pride in Japan.
You remember
that stuff?
You remember what happened?
Dude, you could kick people in the head while they were on the ground.
You remember what happened in Pride if both fighters kind of danced too much and ran away from each other? Fill Robert in, because I bet Robert doesn't remember this. He's a little young.
Dude, they stopped the fight and put you right back in front of each other. And they would penalize you if you kept doing it.
And they take half your fight purse.
I mean, yeah, in extreme situations, they would do that as well. But they didn't. It wasn't like the UFC where you could just kind of play Mayweather defense and win the fight by decision somehow because you took the other guy down more. No. You were going to fight in Pride. So,
Buchanan's pineapple whiskey. Get some.
I think the BMF title is misunderstood because I think it means more to the two dudes in the ring than the people outside of it realize, because they want to be able to say, when that was on the line, I was better than you. Not just any fight. They said, we're going to get two badass dudes. They picked us specifically because they thought we'd live up to the title, and I'm going to show you I'm better than what they think you are. I think it means something. I do. That's why we see good fights. And for Holloway, see, people are all talking about Holloway, saying, get in the middle of the ring with me. Did you see Gaethje hesitate even for a moment?
He said, dude, let's go.
That dude took a skip step forward. He was ready to go just as much.
Which, again, the only way Gaethje was going to win that fight was to try to knock him out, because he'd been getting busted up all night. So it worked for him too. Like, if he would have gotten that lucky punch, he could have had that moment too.
I'm just saying, he didn't back down from that moment. And I can think of a few guys over the years in those situations that would have just kind of stood on the outside of that.
I will say, and I've said it before, I'm not a Max Holloway fan. That may have been one of the, he may have looked the best of his career in that fight.
He seems to be getting better over the last couple of years.
He was locked in, and he was tagging Gaethje left and right, where Gaethje had no answer. He was like, I don't even know what to do with this. It was pretty remarkable from him, and hats off to him. I'm glad he got paid. He ended up making over $1 million on that fight, and so good for him. I do like it when they get money, when they get paid. The fight after that is what I would have considered one of the fights of the night myself.
Hill and Perea?
No, not that one. The Weili Zhang and Yan Exon. I don't even know how to say her name. They're both Chinese. It was the first time two Chinese fighters both fought for the belt. And a lot of people, like the casual fan, would probably see that fight and not think there was anything great about it. But the way that those two women kept changing positions and grappling, and it was like a master class in grappling and how to defend moves, and it was awesome. It did come to a decision. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't one of the two where like the guys just lay on each other and you see the guy kind of trying to gain position, but he never does. Like, they were moving back and forth.
Like some Royce Gracie old school kind of.
Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
And you would see it, it's just like the one girl, she was in a choke for 30 seconds and did not tap.
Whew.
I'm talking, this was deep. She got up and it looked like she was going to throw up. So, it's crazy, man. So hats off to Zhang. She's a beast. She's a beast. Yeah, I do really like it. I like watching her fights. And the Pereira fight, I'll be honest, I felt bad for Jamal Hill. I did.
Why?
You don't?
I think what we saw was an overhyped dude who can't quite live up to the hype.
Well, I think Jamal Hill's got something, but you can't
every
take almost
highlight I saw, he looked flat. So either he had a really bad night or Pereira is just that much better than him.
You got to remember, he's coming back from an Achilles that he tore last year.
Okay.
And this was his first fight since then. You're
His
fighting
his hands look slow. Like
I just think he again, it's you they don't do it. They need a tune-up fight.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, but like to me, the greats come back and you'll still see the flashes, even if they don't quite have it, and you can tell. You know, when Silva came back after a bit of a layoff, he still looked like Spida. He came out, little dancing, quick hand movement still.
I mean, but he never had an Achilles or a
he had a
knee.
knee.
Or
didn't he tear his ACL?
He may have tore his ACL.
Yeah. And then when wow, I can't believe my head just went completely blank. Help me, who's the heavyweight champ right now? Oh my God.
John Jones.
Thank you. When John Jones came back, he didn't look like he was gonna have issues. So I'm saying when you're at that level, which is what I kept hearing Hill hyped as the next great thing, the next Conor McGregor level striking and showman, and he's gonna do amazing. Like, I didn't see that from this dude. Now, I get coming off of a layoff. I expected to see some rust getting knocked off, but it looked like the rust just stayed there the whole time. Like, I didn't see any flashes. Now, granted, I just saw highlights. So you have to tell me the fight as a whole.
I mean, it was only 1 minute and 40 seconds, so there wasn't a lot to go off of.
True.
So,
from what I was able to watch from the fight and was taken away from it, is like you said, a tune-up fight would probably have benefited the situation. But again, at that point, if you're gonna go for it, then you need to be ready for it. And he was not ready at all.
He looked
all
low.
and all the trash talk he had going into this.
I mean, that's kind of the thing.
I mean, that's the thing, sure, but I mean,
Pereira's a beast. Like, Pereira's a beast. Pereira's going to show up to the fight.
He's hungry. So good, bad, you're going to talk all the trash you want, but if you got to be able to back that up, period. Yeah. And Hill was not ready to back it up at all.
Didn't look like it. What else you got for us, Pinky? Any more fight stuff?
I don't think there's anything. Like I said, I was a little underwhelmed. I did like the Oliveira and Armin Tuscurian fight. It was a split decision. I mean, I was rooting for Oliveira. So
does Bo Nickel finally get a real fight after this?
I hope. He didn't look good. He won, but he didn't look good.
I mean, he didn't. He just dominated the dude, wrestling him to submission. Right. Like, he didn't have to do any. Why would he have to look good? He literally just after the fight, that thumbs down, and what the conversation I think he had with Dana White was like, man, like, I'm not gonna make this dude just stupid. Like, I wasn't gonna end his life. Like, that's what I feel like that conversation was, because he's like, and I think Dana was like, yeah, our bad. Let's step you up immediately. Right. I'm hoping that's what that conversation was, because that dude looked like somebody who knew he could have just destroyed his opponent and decided to just kind of wrestle him and submit him to save the guy from a hospital visit. Like, that's just kind of what it looked like to me. So we need to see him in a real fight. That could be a big name going forward, potentially, with some star power behind him. If he can combine some striking and some true knockout potential with his submission capabilities, he could be super big name. But other than that, it kind of played out the way I thought it was going to, unfortunately. They just, like I said, they're all guys past their prime. They're not the same draw style power they once were, but they're household names within UFC. And that happened because Jones is injured. McGregor, for whatever reason, they didn't want to put on this card, or he didn't want to be on this card. Like, they just didn't have these star names to draw in and
he was still working through his, like, not getting tested for steroids.
I know.
He's recently gotten to a point where he could be tested. So I will say Jerry, I'm not even probably saying that right. Jerry Prozaca and Aljamain Sterling, both guys who have previously been champs. Both of their fights were pretty good, and they put on a good show. So hats off to them. But yeah, UFC 300, a little underwhelming for me. I will say my favorite part was just hanging out with my friends and family. Like
Sure, that's
it was,
always, yeah, absolutely.
it was a great night, and to see everybody smile and laugh and have a good time. You know, that just Robert's wife is now like, we should go see a ultimate fight sometime. So
I was disappointed because I was supposed to come home, and I was gonna be like, "Hey, you should just actually come talk about this for a few minutes because it was your first fight. Like, and now you really want to go see more, so you should talk about it." So I'll see if I can get her to do that next week. But yeah, no, it was great. We had a blast.
Put that McGregor fight on the calendar, Pinky, because I think that one.
I was about to say we got to bring that up at least real quick.
Oh my God, Zion is out.
Yeah, fouled out, I think.
No, he got hurt.
What?
He got hurt. He's got 40 points and he's out of the game.
How do you know he got hurt?
I just got an alert from ESPN.
I'm watching it. I didn't see him get hurt.
Exits and final minutes of West with apparent injury.
That's what happened. He literally walked off the cart. It looked like it was just a timeout.
I don't know.
Yeah,
man.
He was destroying him. It's tied right now with 1:45 left.
Yeah, I'm a little ahead of you. So the Lakers are up by 2.
Well, I wish this thing would buffer.
All right, so moving on from UFC 300, we will. I think that's UFC 303 is the McGregor one. So I want to say that's June 29th. So that's the company zoo day. That might be a short time at the zoo. Hey, everybody, nice to see you. I gotta go.
I haven't committed to nothing.
I'm gonna go, but it might be quick. I like Michael Chandler a lot. I like him a lot. So, and I've always liked McGregor. So, all right, let me take a look at the list. What do we got? Oh,
Masters next.
This is when I'm gonna start drinking, and I'm gonna let Caleb talk. Robert, you feel free to talk. Masters 2024.
Oh yeah.
We'll do a fairly quick synopsis. Solid tournament. Late start Thursday because of weather. Friday, super windy, dried out the greens terribly. Saturday, Sunday got super interesting because the scores never got below. I think the lowest was 9 or 10 at one point. But then they hit Amen Corner. On Sunday, on the final round, Masters Sunday afternoon, coming into Amen Corner, the final 3 groups, there were 5 players. 4 at 6 under, 1 at 5 under, and then a couple at 4 under. All hit Amen Corner, and all but one fell off the lead. All of them hit Amen Corner and double bogey. My day is ruined. My tournament is ruined. I am now out of chance of contending. And it happened to Morikawa. It happened to Deschambault. It happened to shoot. I'm drawing a blank now. John Rahm was out of it way early, so the defending champ wasn't even in it. Oberg and I'm drawing a blank on the last guy. But they just done. And Scotty Scheffler, 2021 champ, came back, got his second green jacket, was in contention all weekend, and was able to hold on to the lead Sunday afternoon in a great Masters finish, and outlast the field and just not play bogey golf is what it came down to. He just wasn't making mistakes that everybody else was making. So while he wasn't getting birdies and lowering his score, he didn't have to, because everybody else around him was making mistakes and raising their score. So congratulations to Scotty Scheffler. It was a great weekend. I was right in a way, because when we talked about it a couple weeks ago and you guys weren't around, I said I had a feeling that it was going to be a repeat champion, in the sense that it would be somebody who's already won before. We wouldn't have a brand new champion.
You did call that.
It's kind of easy to say though, so I'm not sitting here going to say like I'm going to take a lot of credit because there's a lot of repeat possible champions in the field.
Hey, toot your horn. Nobody else will.
Fair, but it had that feel this year just because of the way everything was being talked about with weather and changes and possible late starts and things of that nature. Somebody who knew the course felt like was going to benefit from those situations. So see what Scotty Scheffler does the next 3 majors and what he can kind of put together. You know, he's got a couple under his belt now. Definitely the world's #1 player right now. Kind of feels untouchable at this point, the way he's playing golf. So it'll be interesting to see how this year unfolds for him and what kind of run he could go on here.
All right. And then, of course, you know, the next big golf tournament we can get Cotton back on. I love having that guy on. He knows his stuff. And in the John, was it John?
Chris.
That guy was cool too. Like they did an awesome job breaking down the Masters in golf, and
they did. It was fun.
They were really good on the show while Robert and I were out. Robert, your turn to talk a little bit. I wanted to bring up soccer because the one thing I have followed is the story of Wrexham.
Okay, sure. We can. Yeah,
I love it.
Incredible.
I've only watched 3 or 4 episodes of the first season. I need to get caught up on it. But the fact that 2 Hollywood actors go out and buy this little rundown, shitty soccer team in Wales and put new life into that whole team and their fans and
the talent.
The last 2 years they've played so well they've moved up 2 years back to back. What a story, and it's just Rob McElhenney and Ryan Reynolds. I mean, just 2 random guys.
Before Robert jumps in, I just want people to have this into perspective as he starts giving you some stuff and we start discussing this a little more. I've been thinking about this a lot, and there is not a damn thing that comes close to comparing in North American sports what Wrexham FC has done these last 2 years. Like, this isn't supposed to happen the way they've done it.
I mean,
and there's literally nothing I can think of that I'm able to compare it to where something would give you an idea of what this is.
I think in the first episode, if I remember right, they give you like a rundown of like, here's this league, and then here's this league, and then there's this league, and then there's this league, and then there's this league, then there's this league, and then there's Wrexham, and they're in this league, and it's all the way at the bottom.
Yeah, I mean, they're lower than, like, if you can follow baseball, I mean, we're talking
that was going to be the analogy that I was going to be using.
Rookie ball, moving from rookie ball up to A ball, and then A ball up to
double A.
No, like single A. Like A ball, I'm thinking of as more of like your summer league stuff, your Hampton leagues, your things of that nature that aren't quite true full seasons yet, just like rookie ball really isn't either.
If you've ever watched The Rookie with Dennis Quaid and how his story comes, that is a great comparison to a degree.
Yeah, but see, I wouldn't even do that, and this is why I didn't even say
to
any individual person, Robert, because
no, I'm not saying to like the individual. I'm just talking for the leagues itself, not for the person.
We've got a lot of stories of individuals doing it. Plenty. Yeah. We have zero comparison for a team doing what a team. That's what I'm saying.
Correct.
Like, there's nothing to compare it to. I can tell you it's an underdog and they're moving up and they're doing things they weren't supposed to.
Right. No, I was using the like where he starts and like the leagues he goes through and moves on up is kind of what Wrexham's doing. Now it's from an individual perspective. Now, if you blow that up to a team, now you're talking like consistently winning.
Yeah, that's the thing. One individual
like this is domination. This is dominance. We want to fucking talk about dominance. Well, this is it.
Let's not get carried away because
but again,
they could quickly get relegated next year. So I'm not on a dominance level yet. An amazing story because of and let's be honest, the insane intelligence and ability for Reynolds and McElhaney to just get it. There's a lot of people with money that have bought sports teams, and they have not been able to do anything close to what they're doing right now with an organization or a franchise.
I mean, multi-million-dollar sponsorships for the team, and I think they bought him for like $2.5 million, which was it's pretty low amount for a team. But
well, and now people want to play for him because they're treating the team correctly. They're handling their business. Things are run like a premier level league team. So all these guys that maybe would have gone somewhere else to try and get back in the leagues are going to want to play for Wrexham. So I don't see this train slowing down, to be perfectly honest with you.
Cheers to them.
Exactly, which is why, again, it's an incredible feat that they're doing because it's almost unheard of. And again, as Caleb said, for a soccer perspective, there's nothing really to compare it in North America. There just isn't. Because it is cutthroat over there. You've heard me on this cast talk several times about Stuttgart, which actually is a perfect segue to the Bundesliga. And they've been relegated twice since 2012, and are now third in the Bundesliga 1. So it is cutthroat. Even though you have won a championship in Bundesliga 1, you are not set in that league. You will move.
You could relegate next season.
And it breaks my heart because Stuttgart, when I was living over there and things, they weren't the greatest of teams, but still getting to experience it was amazing. And now still carrying it over here and getting all excited about what they're doing now is just amazing. And with, again, the Bundesliga right now, Leicester with what they did, incredible.
46 match non-losing streak.
It's insane.
And again, that also nothing in North American sports to compare that streak to.
Not at all.
There's not.
And that's one of the big things, you talk about all these runs in soccer. Big one again that was 10 years ago was when Brazil lost in Brazil to Germany. It was almost, they had, I think it was over 100 games played and won, and had never lost. We're talking decades of games. And it just nothing sheer but of incredible. And I'm excited because here actually in 11 days, Leverkusen and Stuttgart play. So I'm excited to watch that match. But again, Munich really fell this season, and they actually play Arsenal tomorrow in the Champions League for their second round. So that's going to be a big game. Looking forward to that. But like Caleb said, a 54 game run, you just can't compare it. It's nuts.
That's insane. That's just to have that level of consistency.
So and for those that don't know soccer, there's their regular season. Then there's like a Champions League that they're playing in. That's the best of the best from other leagues. Then there's their inter-country matches, for lack of a better way of explaining it, FA Cups and all these other things that they do within the season as well. This is not just like I'm playing the league and I've got a really easy schedule with bottom of the barrel teams. A majority of these matches we're playing upper echelon opponents the entire time. So it's just wild. It's just wild.
Which, yeah, with the Premier League right now, with some of the losses that happened, basically Arsenal, I'm wearing my boys right now, but God, breaking my heart over here with basically handing the champion right now to Man City. There's still a few games left, but Premier League is, again, cutthroat. A lot of things can happen in a blink of an eye if you're not careful. Which, again, for all of you U.S. people, soccer is a great sport to watch. I know it can be boring, but there's a lot of great statistics and thought that go into this and the strategy. It's a great game.
You know what helps? You know what helps for watching soccer?
What, Pinky?
Drinking and betting on it.
100%. Betting on soccer is
and hanging out with your friends.
That too.
So, if we hang out, I'll cheer for soccer. I'll be drinking and having a good time.
But hey, so do keep in mind that most of these games that we talk about are like 7 to 10:30 in the morning, so it's an early day and drinking day.
When are the Euros?
I've done 8, 9 o'clock in the morning at Fuzzies for soccer.
Caleb? What are you talking about?
They have soccer on at Fuzzies.
When
Yeah,
are the
they have
Euros?
soccer.
Because the Euros should have been this year, shouldn't have they? But because of the Olympics.
Let me look.
I feel like they should
It's
have
supposed
been.
to. No, it starts in June.
The Euros start in June?
UEFA Euro 2024, June 14th.
Pinky,
Germany,
Euros
Scotland.
are just a mini World Cup. It's just European national teams playing.
I mean, if Robert says, Pinky, let's go to Fuzzies and have some drinks and watch some soccer, I'm there.
Hey, wait, when's June
Vamonos.
14th? When's June 14th?
The week before I go out of town.
Dang it, it's a Friday. So Pinky, we have to take a half day. But
What? Why? You don't have to do day one, my guy. You can.
Germany plays at 1 o'clock.
Eh.
That's my team.
Half day, let's go. I mean, I can take a half day. Pretty easy.
And it's
Pretty
the
easy.
only game of the day. So
Yeah, I mean, opening game. Aren't they in Germany this year? Isn't that where the Euros are?
Yes, because the match of this is the one I really wanted to go back for because the final match is played in Stuttgart at the Mercedes Stadium. And I'm
There you
like,
go.
oh, but I would need to sell a kidney right now to make that happen in a month and a half. So it's not happening.
Yeah,
But it would be
that ticket might be harder to get than a Super Bowl ticket.
Probably. There's a good shot. And I mean, the semifinals even played on my birthday, so it's like, man.
Good stuff.
You know what we need to do? Wait, you turned 28 on your birthday this year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. In 2 years, we're getting you drunk. As you get into 30, those hangovers are tough, so we're gonna make it happen.
I'm hyped.
Robert,
Start drinking water now.
I don't want to. I don't want to
drink so
stop
much
you if
water.
you've got more. If you've got more soccer comments.
No, that was pretty much it. So I'm good on the soccer. So if we want to move on here.
So before we get closer to the NBA, there's something that's been going on for about the last week, and I gotta say, guys, I am pretty freaking tired of it. I need Cam Newton.
Oh man.
And Ronda Rousey to stop bitching and whining about their failed careers. It's a bad look.
Me nice.
Now, I don't think that everything they're saying is not true. It comes off as just like, guys, come on. Like, Cam, you've been done for years, and I'm sorry that you got a shoulder injury. I do think his shoulder injury is what kind of made it to the point where he just could not be a viable option at quarterback anymore.
Let's stop there. What year of his career did that shoulder injury happen, Pinky? Just roughly.
Let's take a look.
Just roughly. Like year 10?
I got to Google it now.
Year 8? It's not like it was year 3 or 4.
He was he was drafted in 2011. His shoulder surgery was in 2019, January of 2019.
8 years in the league. You know how many times he threw for over 4,000 yards?
Like maybe once.
I'm sure he got it at least once.
Twice. You know which years of his career he did that?
Year 1 and his MVP year.
Year 1 and year 2. And he never did it after that.
Damn.
And Cam wants
probably because he had Steve Smith.
Cam wants to talk about I didn't have receivers. It was a system built around me and what I could do. So it wasn't meant to do blah, 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 blah. Cam wasn't good at throwing the football, first of all. Cam never developed to get any better at throwing the football. In fact, you could argue that he got worse as his career progressed. And that's not because of the receiving talent. The receiving talent looked bad because it wasn't good. And it looked bad because the quarterback wasn't good at throwing the ball accurately. Did he have a big cannon arm? Sure, absolutely. Was he a beast of a human being? Absolutely. Could he run pretty fast? Yep. Was he pretty agile for his size? Yeah. Was he a great quarterback? Absolutely not. No, he was not. And unfortunately for Cam, when push came to shove, his true colors of what he was willing to do to win came to light in the brightest of moments. So it doesn't matter how correct a message could be if the messenger is the worst person that could possibly deliver it. It's going to already ring untrue. And then you have
a couple years ago,
says ridiculous things like he's a better quarterback than Kirk Cousins. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, and I'm picking between the two for quarterback of my team, I'm picking Kirk Cousins.
You like that? You like that?
It wouldn't even be. I wouldn't even have to think twice about it. It would be Kirk Cousins, and I'd run, and I'd feel great about it. Cam would never even be a thought to be on my team as a quarterback. Not even a thought. We would have to go so far down the list for me to be okay with Cam Newton being my quarterback.
No,
that it wouldn't even be fun to go down the list.
A couple years ago, he made the comment about like that he's a better quarterback than some of the backups that are playing.
He said he's at least one of the 32 best quarterbacks.
Right. And I'm like, is there probably 3 or 4 teams that maybe you're better than the guy that's playing? Sure. But with all the drama that comes with you and your salary and all that, you're not worth it. You're not worth the squeeze.
I don't even have to. You know me. I don't care about drama. I don't care about that. You're grown men. Deal with your shit. But I do care about how much I'd have to pay you minimum. So if you're asking me, you or Kenny Pickett, I'll take the year Kenny Pickett and restart the next year. I don't need you on this team. I don't need that payment going to somebody that's not going to do anything for us when I can pay a dude 10 times less to do the same job, right? Like, that's really what it is. So I don't care if you're marginally better. What I have to pay you and the results that it's going to get me do not equate to equaling worthwhile.
And now, recently, Ronda Rousey's come out multiple times just talking shit.
Dude,
she needs to UFC, WWE, she's just going the gamut on everybody right now.
She really is. Like, I also want to be like, she's talking about, like, today, her most recent comments were about it's unfair how the WWE has treated Logan Paul. And I'm like, well, that's sure shit calling the kettle black, because they literally took you in and made you an instant superstar when you weren't very good at wrestling.
Oh, her matches were atrocious. I'm glad she's not in there anymore. She was stiff. She didn't have any ring presence. Like, she was bad in the WWE. I don't know what she's talking about with Logan Paul, because he seems to be truly loved as a great heel, and his matches are phenomenal. We talk about it all the time. Highly entertaining.
Oh, I don't like him as a person. I love him as a wrestler. Like, that dude, like, when I watch his fights, I am entertained.
And you know what? So
I am entertained.
Pinky, when we met at the bar to watch the fights on Saturday, I told you that I had to explain to Haley what we were watching, because she's like, so we're gonna see Logan Paul tonight, right? And I'm like, well, you may see him, but this isn't what he does. And she's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, well, so, and it actually had perfect time. So I actually threw on WrestleMania 40 day 2, and I fast forwarded to his match, and I'm like, this is what they do. It's pure athleticism and pure entertainment. We're actually going to go see dudes beat the crap out of each other. Blood, everything. Like, you will see someone probably get knocked out or choked out tonight, period. She's like, okay. And so the fact that someone who doesn't really know the fighting world at all, but is like, hey, so Logan Paul does this, I think it says something, even regardless of who he was beforehand, because she at least attributes that to him. Where, I mean, coming from what you were saying, Pinky, Ronda Rousey, from what I'd seen from her matches, were garbage too. I just had watched quick highlights, but it wasn't anything that was enjoyable. But watching Logan Paul the last few times, it's been a blast.
I just don't understand how she can say that they've given him everything, but they did the same thing for her.
They gave her more.
And then again, when her luster started to wear off, they weren't giving her that treatment anymore. That's the problem. That's the issue. So I want both of them to go away. If we don't hear from Cam Newton or Ronda Rousey, I'd be happy. And I like Ronda Rousey when she was fighting. Just
So she got her.
go and
Never mind.
just go enjoy your retirement with your kids. Like, it's fine. You don't like it's fine. We don't need to see you. Obviously, you don't want to be in the WWE anymore. You've made that apparently clear. They've got the message. They're probably not going to bring you back. Cool. Like, move on. Find your
Moving
next
on.
next adventure in life. All right. So I don't do this often, but I know Caleb would be poorly. He would be sad and be like, Pinky, you didn't do a good job if I didn't let him talk about the Olympics.
So, okay. All right. Quick hit. We'll do this quick because I think we'll talk more in depth about this true topic as the Olympics actually get closer and the games are getting ready to go off. But the torch was lit today, Athens, Greece. Cool ceremony. You know what it means. Torch is lit. It's going to start going around the world until it gets to its final destination in Paris here in a couple of months, when the Olympic flame will be lit and the games will kick off with opening ceremonies. Totally awesome ceremonies, festivities, traditions, because every games gets to make up their own. Mostly good. Some are uninspiring, but like China being China and being able to use whatever $1 trillion budget they want to, because they can just take, money from wherever they want, put on a hell of a production. Russia was pretty good as well. Last couple of ones have been fairly decent. So I love the opening ceremonies. You get the pageantry of all the, athletes walking in, and then the show that comes with it to welcome everybody and things of that nature. So the flame being lit, big deal. Things are going to start moving. Also, the USA men's basketball roster was announced. And as soon as I saw it, my reaction was meh. I'm not mad about it, but nothing about it makes me excited either. And I told you we'll go into it in more detail, so I'll leave you with a little bit of a cliffhanger there as to why I feel that way until we talk about it here in a couple of months. But I will give you the roster so you can chew on it yourself, if you will, until the time when we give our true insight to it. We have LeBron James, Steph Curry, Joel Embiid, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, Tyrese Halliburton, Drew Holiday, Bam Adebayo, Anthony Edwards, Anthony Davis, and the last spot just announced today this afternoon was filled by Kawhi Leonard. So there's your roster. Look it over, chew it over. You tell us what you think with your initial reaction. Mine was meh.
Well, here's the thing. They should dominate, because any of the other countries' teams, they've got, if Joker decides to play for Serbia, they've got Joker. They've got maybe a couple other NBA guys, not a lot, but they've got a couple other ones. That's it, right? If you look at Canada's got a couple guys. Jamal Murray could play for Canada, right? But they don't have a complete SGA can play, I guess. They just don't have a complete if they're not going to have a complete NBA roster playing.
They are actually now. Canada pretty much has a complete NBA roster.
Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Whatever.
France will come close to the equivalent of an NBA roster. It'll be interesting if the Greek Freak plays in the playoffs, and then will he play in the Olympics? If he doesn't play for the Bucks, there's no way he can play in the Olympics.
Right.
Argentina is going to have probably a solid team, but not any big names. They just play fairly solid basketball usually on the world stage. So there's going to be some things that could get interesting. Again, I'm not going to break it down for you right now. Plenty of thoughts. I'll allow you to chew on it for the next couple of months, and you can have your feelings. And when I finally divulge the reasons for the meh, we'll see if they align.
So we touched on this next topic. This is going to be a real quick hitter. We touched on this topic last week, and it held true again. The WNBA draft was just the other night. I think it was last night.
Last night.
Last night. No surprises, pretty much, from what I understand.
Not really.
They do rounds 1, 2, and 3. There's only 12 teams, so there's 12 picks per round. So there's 36 picks altogether. Of course, Caitlin Clark went 1. Angela Reese went 2.
Surprise.
No surprise again. Angela Reese making the decision to ostracize Caitlin Clark. Do a lot of, she did a lot of TikToking and all that stuff, and she kind of left Caitlin to the side. I'm sorry, Angela. I get it. There's the rivalry, whatever. You need to embrace her and make more money. I'm sorry.
I think that's being
well.
taken completely out of context. They don't have to be friends. They don't have to be buddy and doing things just because they're in the same draft class or they played against each other. Like that's not a requirement.
They don't. But again, like we talked about last week, it just so happens that it seems like there's a lot of people trying to dull her shine, and that's fine. That's fine. But her shine is bringing so much attention to your sport that might bring you more money.
That's why we're talking about the WNBA draft right now.
Hello. That Angel Reese thinks she's brought in some shine to the game and doesn't fully believe in the Caitlin Clark solo thing. Here's the problem. She's wrong. And she's a good player. Something like 35, 34 double-doubles this season. NCAA record. Like, she's a damn good player. But if you weren't playing against Caitlin Clark in those games, nobody's going to watch those games and know you're a damn good player.
Nobody knows. I'll be honest. They would have, if Caitlin Clark is not playing in the finals last year for Angela Reese to beat, nobody knows who she is.
Yeah, nobody's watching that game if that's not there. Just is what it is.
So, I would say a good portion of folks know who Angela Reese is.
But Angel Reese has said all the right things when it comes to Caitlin Clark. She hasn't been like one of the pros like a Diana Taurasi and some of these others that are like, she's going to learn today. She gets to the league, I'm going to introduce her. She's going to have an aha knockdown moment, kind of like, nah. And here's why. And you guys can say it all you want. She'll have some rookie struggles. Yeah, sure. But here's the deal. You guys act like she's going to go out there and try to score 30 a game. And I think Caitlin Clark is way smarter than you're going to give her credit for. And she'll be very happy to go out there and get 10 points and 20 assists every night and dominate you that way and still be the face of the league because of it. And I think Caitlin Clark understands that and knows it. And I think that's how she's going to introduce herself to the league. And because of that, she's going to be successful from the jump. So we'll see. We'll see.
Right. Let's see. Okay. So as we move to the NBA, we're going to talk the play-in. We're going to talk playoffs. We've got to talk about Boban. What an epic move in the Sunday nobody cares game. What team does he play for?
Clippers.
The Rockets, right?
Clippers.
He used to play for the Clippers. He used to. He was playing in LA. They were playing the Clippers. I think he plays for the Rockets, I think.
No, I thought they were in Houston. It was for the Houston fans, I thought.
No, it's Clippers fans. LA.
Okay.
Cody knows where I'm going. He's a man of the people. So for the Clippers, if an opposing team player misses two straight free throws, everybody gets Chick-fil-A. A Chick-fil-A sandwich. He missed the first one, and he starts pointing to the crowd. I got you. And bricks it. He did play for the Clippers at one time.
Yeah, I know. Either way, it doesn't matter. He's winning people free chicken sandwiches, and I actually hate this. I love Boban, so I'm not mad at him.
I hate
this because the competitor in me is you're not missing free throws on purpose to get people free sandwiches. You're not.
The Rockets were out of it. So the last game of the season, the Rockets are out of it. They were up by 8 points too. So what does that matter?
I just
get the people some free chicken, Caleb.
Nah,
especially for a game,
that
game doesn't matter.
The game, so be it. But I don't like doing it on purpose because.
But that game doesn't matter. They win that game, it doesn't matter.
If I'm playing a game, I'm going to win. Like I don't like it. I'm never going to like it. I'm not mad at him because I love
Robert.
Boban. I'm never gonna like it. I'm never gonna be okay.
You
with
give
it.
people free chicken.
Absolutely, you get, dude.
Especially with it not even being your home fans. It's not even your home fans.
Does it matter?
Hell
You
yeah.
give the people chicken.
No, I don't
This
like
man,
it.
listen, this man did not take a freaking book to the face from Keanu Reeves to get disrespected like that to be a man of the people. I'm
Don't
sorry,
like it.
Caleb. Get over it. This man gave us chicken.
Caleb's wrong on
Ooh.
this one.
Don't
Give
like
us
it.
chicken.
Don't like it. Don't like it. Don't like it. Besides, the owner was already paying everybody's tab in the entire arena. He could have just added chicken sandwiches to the tab.
Who cares?
Look, if it's the middle of the regular season, they're still fighting for a playoff spot. I could agree with you. I can't.
Look, I'm not mad. I just don't like it. And I'm never going to like it because the game is still the game. And I don't like not trying within the game. It's something I'm never going to be okay with. Then just win the game. Like, that's how I feel. Like,
wow.
And I'll always feel that way. It just is.
That's off to Boban.
I'm not mad at it. I love Boban. I get the situation, everything added up to it being like the right opportunity to do something like that. I'm just not going to be okay with it because of the competitor in me. It just is
Who doesn't love some free chicken, right?
Free chicken.
I love Chick-fil-A too. I love it. Their chicken sandwich is still, like, I've tried a bunch of them. Their chicken sandwich is still number one. Just the pressurized what they do and how tender and oh man. Now I need 2 spicy chicken sandwiches. That's what I need because one's not enough. Got to get 2. All right, Chick-fil-A, you can sponsor us anytime. NBA play-in games. We already have a game to talk about. The Lakers and Pelicans just finished up, and the Lakers won. Congratulations, you won the play-in. Now you got to play Denver, who you haven't beat in like 11 games. Come on down. Which, again, that was the talk of the day. Should the Lakers throw this game to play the Thunder, or do they win and play the Nuggets? Again, at the end of the day, you never lose a game on purpose. Because there's no, especially the way this is set up, you play that 9-10 game, LeBron gets hurt, you have a bad free throw shooting night, you have too many turnovers, something happens, you lose, you're out of the playoffs altogether. At least now, because you won, you get a chance. And sometimes that's all you need. You just need a chance. Now, obviously it's a bad matchup because the Nuggets play you fairly well. So, but cheers to the Lakers. They are officially in the playoffs.
I'm not cheersing the Lakers, but good for you.
I mean, they got in. That's, they got in.
Respect to the Lakers. I'm not cheersing them. Especially considering they've massively underachieved since LeBron got there.
Absolutely.
Actually, no, that's simply not true. Based on my own feelings, they got their ship, so they haven't underachieved at all. But for what they were expecting of themselves and the way they talk, they have massively underachieved.
Well, this is how bad it is. And again, this comes back to the greatness of LeBron, and I think we've all said we do think LeBron is great. He's not our GOAT, but he's great. He had to play 41 minutes tonight. He almost put up another triple-double at 39 years old. If he doesn't play 41 minutes, they don't even get close.
I don't care what anybody says, and you'll never be able to convince me otherwise. What he's doing is far more superior than what Tom Brady did, in my opinion.
I would say it's on par.
The toll that his body's going through compared to the toll that Brady's body went through are not comparable.
The hits Brady takes compared to the hits LeBron takes are completely different.
They changed the game because of Brady, specifically for Brady, so he could continue. He barely had to take hits. The hits he did take, while brutal, aren't going to last as long as 3 and 4 nights.
All I know
playing 40 minutes at that level.
I feel a gigantic person like LeBron can go out and take a couple hits here and there against his body in the paint versus standing up and letting a linebacker hit you.
Dude,
as you
it's
just
so
barely
much more
threw the
than that.
ball.
You're acting like it's just the hits that other people put on him.
I know it wears on you.
He's sprinting, not jogging, sprinting how many miles a night on top of all of that?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people, especially people who didn't play the game at a high level, I don't think people understand the true physical superiority that NBA athletes are in compared to almost every other athlete on the planet.
I'm not going to take anything away from Tom Brady and the amount of years he played football. That nobody's done that. And LeBron is on par with that type thing. And again, LeBron's still at the top of his game. He really is.
That's the
at
thing,
this age.
though, is he's like he's playing. You told me he was MVP this year. The only thing I would have said was, well, the Lakers weren't very good. His numbers sure as shit were, though. So it's not like he's declining or diminishing. It's not like his minutes played are getting less. Like, it's crazy to me what he's doing.
He had to
absurd.
He had to play a lot. They didn't want to play him that many minutes this year. He had to play a lot of minutes to get them to this point.
Yep, he did.
So even with all the so-called like improvements they made, it's like he still had to play over 30 minutes a game.
I think right now, if anybody believes they're not going to get swept by the Nuggets, you're forcing yourself to talk you into something special happening with the Lakers. There's no reason that the Nuggets shouldn't sweep them again. And I'm not saying that because I'm a huge Nuggets fan. I'm not saying that to be like, ooh, hot take and hyperbole. I'm saying based on what happened this year, and I mean based on what happened in last year's playoffs and everything that's happened since, the Nuggets have just owned the Lakers.
I think the Lakers are going to get a game. I think they're due. The Nuggets are going to win in 5, in my opinion. But if they win in 4, I won't. Nobody. Are we going to be shocked if they win in 4? No. But most of the games the Nuggets and the Lakers play are pretty close games. The Nuggets just, they find their way to win in the fourth quarter.
Score close and game feel close are two very different things. And none of these games have really felt like the Lakers were threatening the Nuggets, even if they were up by a couple points. I've never watched one of those games thinking, the Nuggets better close this or they're going to be in trouble. Like, I just have never thought that when they're playing the Lakers over the last year and a half or so. So, goodbye, LA. Round 1 exit. LeBron James. Thank God the play-in is here, or you would have been sitting at home the last 4 years. So, hey, maybe you shouldn't have been. Hey, LeBron James is the current Rory McIlroy of the NBA when it comes to talking the play-in tournament.
Yeah, he hated the play-in tournament.
He said whoever invented it should lose their effing job. Like, that was his public quote. So,
and he has benefited the most.
Dude, he wouldn't have had a championship without it. Like, come on now. So, yeah, not good for LeBron when it comes to speaking out loud.
I do believe, and again, you don't tempt fate this way, but I do believe they would have had a fairly good chance to beat the Thunder. At least a fighter's chance to beat the Thunder.
Yes, only because of and I've talked about this before, the inexperience of the Thunder and the youth. They would have had a puncher's chance. Absolutely. Now they play the Nuggets, they don't. Now it looks like New Orleans and Zion is injured. If Zion's out, New Orleans is done. I don't care who wins the Kings Warriors matchup. They will smoke New Orleans without Zion. If Zion doesn't get hurt, I think the Pelicans win tonight. They were rolling when he went out. Rolling.
It was a tie game when he went out.
Zion Williamson, if he gives us a couple more flashes here over the next couple of years and keeps getting injured like this, but can get through the regular season, maybe give us one good playoff win or something, he could go down into that biggest what if in sports history Hall of Fame debates. Right up there with the Bo Jacksons and a Derrick Rose, a Len Bias, like
Greg Oden.
He could get into
Grant
that
Hill.
debate real quick because there is
Anthony Hardaway.
You see, that's another good one. Grant Hill. You see the potential. You see what could be. And if his body just doesn't allow him to be that, and I don't subscribe to he needs to lose weight thing. Like, his body's built for that. Could he lose some pounds and be healthier? Sure. Do I think that makes his body less brittle? No. I don't believe that's how it works personally. So we'll see what happens with him over the next couple of years because, man, he could be something really special. Like, you see where his development could go and his ceiling. He could easily be the face of the league and the best player in the league right now if he could get a full season consistency under his belt. Like, so I don't know. That's going to be interesting. But if he's out, Pelicans are done, and whoever wins this game going on right now between the Warriors and Kings, we'll just beat them and get the 8th seed. And then they have a really nice round 1 matchup against OKC. And I'm not trying to downplay OKC. I think they're a crazy good team. I said at the beginning of the year, keep an eye on them because they're going to be this year's Sacramento Kings.
We both did.
Which they were even better than what the Kings did the previous year. But they are still young. They are still inexperienced. They're still kind of figuring out who they are. When a true team like you said, the Lakers, a veteran team, the Warriors, the Nuggets, when they get a match up against them in the playoffs and they get to go against you in a series, night in and night out, that changes what you're able to do drastically. And you have to be able to counter punch. You have to be able to play the chess game. And they're just not there yet, I don't think.
So one of the things
OKC 2012, when they went up against the LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh Heat and lost pretty bad. It was 4-2, but they lost pretty bad because they just came up against a team who had the same skill level, but was just far more superior when it came to experience.
I mean, what I've noticed paying more attention to playoff basketball is, again, the refs swallow the whistle a little bit more. Like, they're not as
more physicality.
They allow a little bit more physicality. Players play harder defense. They put a little bit more effort in. And you kind of see those, like, I feel like you see more. You don't see these wide runs in the playoffs. Like
you don't see the drastic 20-point swings as much as you do in like a regular season game, for sure.
So I think that all matters. So again, Lakers won. Kings are up 31-22 at the end of the first against the Warriors. This could be the end of the Warriors, fellas.
So here's the thing.
As we know them. I
think the Warriors win tonight. And I would then pick them to win the first round matchup because they'll beat if Zion's truly out, then they're in. If Zion's not out, then let's pump the brakes a little bit on what I'm about to say.
But then you think the Warriors would have a chance against the Thunder?
I do. A legit true chance. And we can break it down a little bit why. And it comes down to experience and chemistry. And Clay can still go off. It's not consistently, but he can still go off. Draymond's going to give you Draymond, and that's not going to change. And Steph's still playing at an elite level. Kuminga's coming along a little bit. You still have Tony. You still have Gary Payton. You still have some other guys and pieces that have been through those runs before. They know how to win a series. One game, I would pick OKC. If it's just a one-night game in the NBA, I would favor OKC, and I put my money on them. In a series, I would still favor the Warriors because they are talented, and people are acting like they finished below 500. They were 10 games over 500. It's not like the Warriors had a terrible season. It's just that the West is crazy good and really deep. So let's also keep that perspective here. Every team in the West that is in the playoffs from the 10 seed up was at least 10 games over 500. This is not a bunch of teams at the bottom of the barrel who got lucky and got in. These are still really good basketball teams who on any other year would probably be in the playoffs. So when you're talking 10 games over 500, I mean, that's solid basketball. So keep these things in mind when we're talking about this. This isn't a terrible team playing a really good team. This is still a good team playing maybe a great team. And it's not just any old good team. It's a dynasty team that's on the back end of what they're capable of doing. So they can still give you some potential night in and night out, depending on what's happening. So I would personally say we're not done with Golden State. I think they find a way to win tonight. I think they would win their first round series against OKC, and then you're looking at second round matchup and the Nuggets. So that would be the end of it. But it wouldn't surprise me if Sacramento wins. Sacramento and OKC would be a pick-em to me because they're still both inexperienced. Sacramento does have a little bit more experience, but they're still young and inexperienced as well. Now, they did get the 7-game series against Golden State last year. That is definitely really good for this core that's still on this team. So that's some great experience for them. But I don't think talent-wise, they're like above and beyond OKC.
So
you can maybe even actually argue that OKC's roster overall is more talented.
What's crazy is all 4 teams in the play-in on the West, any given night, I think they could beat any team in the West. And then on any given night, they could lose to any team in the West.
Sure.
Like, they've just not played consistent basketball, which is why they're in the play-in.
So that's what you're looking at. That's what you're looking at right now in the West. I think you're going to end up with Golden State and LA. The NBA would just be drooling if that happens somehow.
They
the
need
play-in
it.
tournament worked,
They need it.
and those 2 teams came out of the play-in tournament. The NBA would be drooling for that. Over in the East, those games will kick off tomorrow night. Before we discuss that, I think there's an issue that needs to be brought up. If Giannis misses more than 2 games, the Bucks are done. Also, if he misses 2 games and the Bucks lose both of those games because they'll be at home, the Bucks are done. Basically, what I'm telling you is the Bucks are going to go out in the first round. There's going to be things hitting the fan very heavily this offseason in Milwaukee.
Bro, the word is Dame is not happy in Milwaukee.
He didn't want to be in Milwaukee to begin with, dude. He told everybody that. He told everybody where he wanted to go if you're going to trade me. Keep me here or trade me here. And they chose not to do that. Also, he's dealing with some real serious personal life shit that it's amazing he's playing as well as he is, considering everything he's dealing with in his personal life.
What's he dealing with?
Divorce, basically. But there's a lot. I'm not going to talk about it. It's not something I really care to. I don't think it's worthy. I'm not TMZ. Go read about it on your own and research it if you want to know more details.
Well, look, anybody dealing with divorce is going to struggle emotionally. It's going to happen.
So there's a lot he's dealing with, and he's way far away from his family because he moved to a completely different city in the offseason, almost all the way across the country, at least halfway across the country.
He definitely didn't move his family to Milwaukee. That's for sure.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on there. He didn't want to be there. I said when it happened, if you remember correctly, I don't really like the fit. I don't think it makes the team better because of what they gave up and lost to do it. It's been a mess in Milwaukee all season. You can say, yeah, but they're just going to click finally, and they haven't figured it out just yet, but they will, and the talent's so good. Like, no. That thing's a mess, and that ship's sinking, especially now with Giannis being hurt for a couple games. Indiana's going to win that series. So let's just keep that in mind as we start going through this. But I believe the Bucks are out round 1. Clayton, sorry, buddy. I'm so sorry, but your Bucks are done. They're done. Clayton's the Bucks guy, right? I'm remembering that correctly, I believe. Yeah.
Clayton lives up in Wisconsin, and he's a Broncos fan. He's a Bucks fan. He's a Brewers fan.
Sorry, Clayton. Tough breaks for you guys this year. It's not going to be well against Indiana. So now going into the play-in games. The play-in games are interesting. We talked about it a little bit last week, but now they're set. You know, the first one, I think it's a coin toss. I don't think it really matters in the great
scheme of
Embiid playing?
Things.
What? I'm not talking
Embiid
about that one first. I'm not talking about that one first. I'm talking about the 9-10 matchup first.
Oh.
Chicago and Atlanta. In the grand
cares?
scheme of things, it doesn't mean anything. Either one of them could make a little mini run and get in as the 8 seed, and it wouldn't surprise me. But they're not doing anything. They get smoked in the first round, move along. Neither one of those teams we're talking about right now.
Neither one of those teams could beat the Celtics. So move along.
However, Miami or Philly could. And it would be surprising. I don't know if it would be shocking. I think Philly should win, but I'm not sold on the fact that they can beat playoff Jimmy. I will say I believe Philly will win and go into the 7 seed. And I will say that Miami ends up winning whatever they need to get the 8th seed. Miami will get smoked this year by Boston, I believe. Bit of a revenge tour for Boston, if you will. Maybe it goes to 5 games. Wouldn't surprise me at all if they swept them. Philly, though. Philly is the 7 seed. That could be where things get a little bit interesting.
I'm catching up with NBA.
Is Joel Embiid healthy?
He's playing.
Okay. Well, I mean, he hurt his knee the other night.
I know.
And I was like,
he'll play. By all accounts, he's going to be playing. What that means for you, what that gives you, I don't know. I don't know. But look who the 2 seed is, Pinky. Who got the 2 seed out east?
the New York Knicks, baby.
How confident are you that New York's a true team that can be dangerous in the playoffs?
Not at all.
Me neither. I like Jalen Brunson.
Can they win a game against any team? Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. I know that they can beat any team. But in a 7-game series, I'm not so confident.
New York fans are not going to like this. Orange and blue skies are not going to be happy with me. But here's my prediction. If Embiid can give you an average of at least 28 minutes a game, I will take Philly in 6.
If he's fully healthy, Philly wins.
He's not fully healthy. That's why
I don't know if I would pick. I don't think I would.
If he plays at least this amount of minutes, I believe he will have a big enough impact on the game.
I don't know.
That's where
I still think I would take the Knicks if he's not completely healthy. They've been playing some pretty good basketball since the All-Star break.
Good basketball.
And they've actually been playing better since Julius Randle got hurt.
Yes.
Go figure.
You could argue they have. That is correct.
I won't take credit for that. That was JJ Redick that gave me that piece of information. So
okay. Fair. I just have this weird feeling that if Embiid can give you at least 28 minutes a night, he will have a big enough impact on the game and for his team that Philly will win. And it will be, even though I said Philly in 6, it will feel like a 7-game knock him out, drag him out series. It will be a great series. But if Embiid can give you at least 20 minutes a night, I like Philly. So that's where you're looking at the play-in games. Playoffs will then start Saturday. So now knowing the matchups that we're predicting here with the play-ins, because we've only got one true one set, and it looks like, Sacramento's already up 13. They could start blowing out Golden State. So I'm going to just change it, even though I think Golden State's going to win. It probably will be Sacramento, and that's a coin flip to me. Sacramento, OKC is a coin flip. You take your picks. I'm going to call it a coin flip. Would not surprise me if either team wins or loses. I think you're going to see, even if you don't know either of these teams very well, here's what I'm going to tell you. Watch that matchup. Because you're going to see 2 of the best point guards, young point guards in the league, in SGA and Fox going at it. And you're going to see 2 great big men in DeBonis, who's up and coming developing star, and a Chet Holmgren, who's finishing his rookie year and up and coming, not star, but up and coming, rising. And then all the other pieces they have, from a Keegan Murray to the Williams boys. Really fun young matchup. So watch it because it will be a great series. I will say coin flip, and I will give the edge to OKC ever so slightly, like 50.
Thunder won in that series.
I'll give it 51.1% because I think the overall roster construction is more talented than Sacramento.
So we've got that series. We've got the Nuggets and Lakers.
Yep.
You already called Nuggets in 4. We've
And
got
that,
Minnesota.
again, not being a homer, I just think that's what this matchup is for the Lakers and the Nuggets, and it's been proven over the last year and a half.
I think this is the best series so far in the West. Timberwolves and Suns.
I don't think it's going to be a good series. Now, they've played close regular season. I will be surprised, though, if Minnesota doesn't 5 or 6 and it doesn't feel that close. The Bradley Beal thing has been a bust. They don't have a bench. Minnesota's deep and plays defense. Karl Anthony Towns is back and going to start ramping up his minutes. I don't see how the Suns come out of this in any way. I don't. Give me Minnesota in 6. But even that, I feel like is a bit of a stretch.
Robert, you agree with that?
Sure. I'm
All right.
I'm just kind of catching up with the NBA stuff, so I'm like, hey.
We got to get you to football talk. We're almost there. We got the Clippers and the Mavericks.
I think that's going to be one of the better series. And Pinky, you said the Mavs are trash. They're not playing well. You were not a fan of theirs all season. Even though they're the lower seed, I believe they are the favorite in this series at this point in time. And I would pick the Mavs in 6 because I don't trust Kawhi Leonard's health. And the Mavs are just playing really good team ball right now.
The Mavs have the last couple weeks of the season have played really good ball. And
Luka's got that playoff dog in him, and he proved that to us 2 years
ago.
He did this to the Suns.
Luka has taken over. The problem I have with the Mavs is typically Luka and Kyrie both have to play well to really do well.
For the most part, yes.
Again, there's nights. It just depends on the night. So,
I like the Mavs in 6 in that series.
I want the Mavs to win. I just think that's a Mavs versus Thunder would be a fun series. So I'm all for that.
That would be a really fun series.
I think that's a really fun series. So I would love Luka and SGA. I'm in for it, buddy. Let's do it.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I want to see it. And that's it, right? That's yeah.
Yep, that's the West.
And then the East.
Out East, given the matchups, I already told you it doesn't matter who's the 8th seed.
Boston's playing the Heat.
I think it's going to be the Heat, yeah. And I think Boston sweeps them. I do. I think it's 4 games. Boston gets some rest after the first round. Good for Boston. The 2 seed, I told you, there's a caveat. Embiid's got to give you the 28 minutes.
I think where he's at right now, I'm going to go with the Knicks.
You're going to go with the Knicks, and how many?
Knicks in 6. Sounds about right.
Okay, Knicks in 6. I've got Philly in 6. The 3-6 matchup, this is the one that's the interesting one, and I already told you who I think is going to win here. Indy. And it wouldn't surprise me if Indy wins in like 5. Maybe Milwaukee gets one of the first games at home, maybe.
Well,
I could see this. I could even see Milwaukee winning game 1 and the Bucks fans talking how everything's rainbows and see we figured it out, nothing to fear, and then they lose 4 in a row.
Look, I'm
I
gonna
can see that happening.
I'm gonna set people straight. India plays no defense, but they can put 140 up on you real quick.
And guess who else doesn't play any defense this year? All of a sudden, because they completely changed their identity.
The Bucks.
Milwaukee.
They missed J. Rue Holiday a lot.
Drew Holiday and some of the other pieces that they moved around. It's not the same.
And,
Grayson Allen missing is a big piece.
Grayson Allen and Holiday, they missed them both a lot.
So, I got Indiana. I'm gonna say something crazy, even though I don't think it's gonna happen. I do think Indiana wins the series, but I'm gonna say Indiana in 5. I think Milwaukee is that big of a mess right now. There's no team chemistry. I don't think anybody likes playing for Doc Rivers.
You know Doc Rivers can't get that team up.
No, dude.
And if Giannis doesn't play game 1 and 2, they're going to lose both of those games.
And I'm operating on the assumption that he's missing at least the first 2 games based on the reports I'm hearing. Now, if he somehow magically shows up and plays game 1, Bucks in 7. Something crazy happens and they find a way to get out of the first round. If Giannis doesn't miss any games, Bucks in 7. But I'm operating on the assumption of what I'm hearing right now is he's missing at least the first 2. So Indiana in 5.
If he's healthy, I still think the Pacers might win that series just based on
I could see them winning the series,
score.
but I'm not doing that. I'm not going against Giannis. I think the dude's too crazy talented on both sides of the court. Dame Dollar, when playoff time hits, is Dame Dollar for a reason. So I'll get Bucks in 7 if Giannis doesn't miss any games.
Dame Dollar. Write that down, Robert. Write that down.
Dame. All right.
Dame time. Dame Dollar.
Dame Dollar. Got it.
So there's another caveat. Little caveat going down here in the Eastern Conference. But it is what it is. And then finally you got the 4-5 matchup. Which
is the best matchup.
I like you take it, Pinky.
The Magic have played really good basketball all season against everybody. They've played really good basketball. Wagner, Pablo,
Paulo.
Paulo. Sorry, I like to call him Pablo.
That's fine. Bancaro.
But
Bancaro.
They've just played really good basketball all year, and I really like that. And again, when you talk about the Cavs, at one point the Cavs were on such a crazy winning streak. It's crazy that they got the 5th seed, but they really they lost their mojo along the way.
Here's what's really crazy. The Cavs basically purposely lost the last game of the season to get this matchup.
Right.
Because they were up with 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter by 10, and they pulled all their starters. In a game that did matter for seed.
Could they have played the Bucks?
I don't remember exactly off the top of my head right now. That might have been what. There was a playoff scenario, though, where it definitely looked like they threw the game to get the Magic in the first round. Now, Pinky says you don't do that. That's playing with fate. I personally lean towards more of the chess mentality, and I'm cool with it because players are never trying to throw a game. Organizations do. And so if the organization is playing chess, it doesn't matter what the players want to do when it comes to the checkers on the court. So I'm okay with the scenario. The question is, did you curse yourself or did you set yourself up for a better first round matchup? I personally believe, regardless of the outcome, they set themselves up for a better first round matchup. You can't know that Giannis was going to get hurt and not play. You just can't. So I think while there is some talent there with the Magic, don't get it twisted. Cleveland's got some great young talent too that matches up really well against the Orlando Magic talent. And Cleveland has more experience. I liked them last year. I said they could be a darling this year. I think they underachieved a little bit. They had some injuries. I like Cleveland in this matchup, but I like a 6-game series.
I'm taking Magic in 7.
Ooh.
So I'm just gonna go on something here right now, Caleb, on what you just said about players not throwing games and organizations and all that. It's a bunch of crap because the FIFA had to change that rule and establish the fact that all of the World Cup games and a lot of the semifinal games and whatever for qualifiers had to be played at the same time or within a minutes of each other, because if they were to stagger them like they used to do, there would be teams and countries that would say, hey, we're going to throw this game so we get this matchup and go for it.
But hate the game, not the player, Robert. Don't be mad at the organizations for having the ability to play chess. Be mad at the organization they're in that allowed that opportunity to happen. It's no different than the NFL. 2 years ago, what should have happened, and part of the reason Staley is no longer a head coach, is because he didn't play for the tie and get both teams in the playoffs. He tried to play for a win and then shot himself in the foot, and the Raiders went in and he didn't. When he could have played for the tie, screwed the NFL for allowing such a stupid rule to be available, and he could have gotten both teams into the playoffs.
Right.
Instead, he tried to play hero. That, again, don't hate the game. Don't hate the player, hate the game. If you're going to allow me the opportunity, I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity if I feel it's in the best interest of my positioning. I agree with you, though. FIFA had to make changes specifically because of that, and the changes they made were intelligent because it for the most part, eliminates those scenarios from occurring. NBA, NFL, MLB, they don't want to change that, so it's on them.
NFL made similar changes for the last week of the regular season. It's all division games, which typically might tip the scales.
It helps.
So, But
so I can understand, Robert, if you don't like it, and I can understand if you want to see changes made because of it, and I'm all for all of 100%. That. I won't disagree with you on any of it. But again, I will continue to tell people, don't be mad at somebody doing something that they feel gives them advantage if it's within the rules.
So, Robert,
whether you like it or not isn't what should be talked about or questioned. It's whether or not there is a potential advantage gained. And if there is a potential advantage gained, then you shouldn't be discussing it in a derogatory or negative way.
I purposely threw a fantasy football matchup.
Yes, you did.
To make sure a guy didn't get in the playoffs. So,
Pinky's notorious for that shit.
Which was probably the right move, to be honest. So, we can talk more about that as we get to
there's the playoffs. Season. There's where we feel the first rounds are going to go. We'll have a couple of weeks before round 2 jumps off, and we can get going on that. But we'll talk about it as the games go on. We'll give you some updates and see, if we need to change what we're looking at. But that's a basic rundown right now. Keep an eye on it.
All right. So, Robert, I'm interested in your opinion on this topic. I think I know where Caleb stands.
Okay.
This last week, we did have a little bit of a Twitter battle with a guy, and we don't. I do see Caleb getting in some Facebook battles from time to time, and it's unfortunate because I think people take things the wrong way. And again, when you're texting, when you're posting,
keyboard warriors,
let's caveat. I'm not going to call them battles because they are conversations. I never allow it to turn into a battle. If the other people does, I'm de-escalating, right? That's
to Caleb's.
But I will poke the bear if you're going to say something stupid and force you to give an actual reason for your opinion. I'm going to force you to back it up.
Caleb's a pretty good guy. Like, I give him that. Normally, he respects everybody's point of view, but he does ask for more. He does ask to share your opinion and tell me why. Don't tell me I'm an idiot because you think I'm an idiot. Tell me why, right?
This is an intelligent conversation. This is how shit gets done, but go ahead.
So there happened to be a post out there on Twitter that I saw on my timeline, and it was a guy, and it was a picture of the Jon Snow, the Battle of the Bastards, and he's just standing there by himself.
Yeah. I saw the snippet of this. Okay.
It's always like that take. What's that take that has you defending everybody?
Mm-hmm.
And the guy's take was John Elway is still the greatest quarterback of all time.
Okay.
And there was a guy who posted on there, and he posted all of John Elway's stats. And I think stats don't always tell the whole story. They tell a part of the story.
Numbers can say whatever you want them to say.
But he posted it. So my response to the guy.
Wait, hang on. He didn't just post the numbers. He posted the numbers and said John Elway isn't even top 10 all time.
Right.
Not even top 10 all time is what his comment was.
And so I did post back to him, which maybe I shouldn't have done, whatever. But I was just like, look at the situation. John Elway had Dan Reeves as coach. He had a bunch of players that I guarantee you most casual fans, even Broncos fans, probably couldn't even tell you who those players were. And he still took those teams to 3 Super Bowls. So you can't tell me he wasn't one of the greatest of all time. And then he came back with he called me a moron to start with, and he came back with saying they had a great picture of this guy with a clipboard with an L on it and all this stuff. And I thought it was funny. My first reaction was like, I'm going to tell this guy to eat a bag of dicks. And then I was like, no, I shouldn't do that.
I'm glad he didn't.
But his Twitter handle,
as the podcast,
his Twitter handle is Tom Brady's coming back right now. Is the handle
with a goat at the end.
So obviously Tom Brady's his guy, which I have no problem with. If you want to argue Tom Brady, that's fine. Now, to me, again, my argument's always been, and I'll die on the hill. Like, you're not going to get me off my position. John Elway is the greatest physical quarterback of all time. You could put him on any team, and he would take that team to a Super Bowl. I truly believe it. I truly believe it. I believe in the time period that he was in the 80s, early 90s, if you picked him up and put him on a Bill Walsh 49ers team, they don't ever fucking lose. Good coaching and players around him. He had no players in Denver. The players that he had in Denver were on defense. He had Dan Reeves as coach. Dan Reeves, I think, is an okay coach, but overall, like, his idea was, I'm going to run again. On third down, I'll let John do whatever he wants. That was his offense. And then it was like, hey, we're down in the fourth quarter. John, do your thing. That was typically what Broncos games were like in the 80s. You can't tell me if John Elway had an actual coach with actual talented players that he wouldn't have dominated. And I believe that wholeheartedly. So my position...
Is that what happened when that finally happened?
Huh?
Yeah,
that is exactly what happened.
His career?
Absolutely. He got a good coach, and he got good offensive weapons, and they were destroying people. So think about when John was mobile and could run, because he never lost his arm strength. But when he could run and do all the things he could do when he was young, with talent around him and a coach, you can't tell me that guy wouldn't have just lit it up. You just can't. And there's only a few quarterbacks where I've looked at and been like, I don't care what team you put them on, they would have still had some success. Now, the better team with the better coach that you put them on, the more success they would have had. Because again, coaching, organizational talent, all matters. It's all part of the story.
It's
and
a
again,
giant part of the story when it comes to football. It's not a small part. It is a giant part of the story in football.
Give Tom Brady his roses. I do believe that guy became a completely different player from the player that he was when he started his career to the player he was when he ended his career. But
there's also a giant difference between greatest quarterback and most talented quarterback.
Completely.
Those are very different conversations that people, for whatever reason, seem to not want to differentiate between. Well, now, they can overlap, and you can have guys in both if you want to.
Sure.
But there is a very big... Tom Brady is nowhere near the most talented quarterbacks of all time. He's not in the top 5.
He's not really fun to watch.
You want to sit him at 6 or 7 because of his arm capabilities and precision and mental capabilities. Those are all things that go into quarterbacking. So I'm okay with that. But to say he's in the top 5 most talented quarterbacks of all time would be crazy to me.
But when you throw in career achievements, stats, all of the above,
team game, then he becomes the greatest quarterback, the greatest player, whatever you want to put him as. Then that differentiation, that lineation changes. But let's have the full conversation. This guy didn't want to have the full conversation.
And that's where, you could have all the parallels and things like that all day. And yes, there's going to be warring opinions on it. But if you, look at what John Elway did with what he had at the time and then put him somewhere else, could that happen? Absolutely. But then I, however, fall back on some of that because having just seen a lot of the great generational talent with Saint Germain and what a crapshoot that became, it's hard to see some of those other things that can happen when you put other, like, okay, you've got good coaching, you've got all this talent, but what if that talent doesn't work?
So,
and that's where I'm on that side of the fence. I'm like, okay, sure, you put him in this situation, but then does that talent actually click and does it actually work?
For me, 2 of the guys that are considered 2 of the greatest of all time are Joe Montana and Tom Brady. And I believe I believe it. If they go to any other team and any other coach, we never hear of them. They went to their perfect situation.
Yeah, which is
absolutely
why
perfect
they're
situation.
The GOATs. I still think they would have won. They each would have had at least a Super Bowl somewhere. I believe their talent is that good. That they would have carried their teams in bad spots.
In the
it
80s,
happened with Elway. They would have found a way to get at least one.
If
Brett
in the
Favre
80s,
has one. Aaron Rodgers has one.
Look, man, Joe
Montana
Montana in the 80s with the type of coaching that was out there that wouldn't have used his ability to move and make quick passes, they would not have done that. We would never have heard of that guy.
I will never subscribe to that, though, Pinky, because when you're great, you're great. So you raise all tides. You just do. So at some point, you win. They don't get 4 and 7. They don't get 4 and 7.
Literally, he got dropped with one of the greatest coaches of all time. Great O-line. Hall of Fame running back, although he's not there yet. Roger Craig should be in the Hall of Fame. John Taylor, he had not Brent Jones, the other guy. I can't remember his name. And then Jerry Rice, who's arguably the greatest receiver of all time.
That's fine. Put Jerry Rice with Cam Newton for his career. And Jerry Rice isn't the greatest of all time.
And what type of offense did they run?
Yes,
they ran a quick
short, ding
offense.
Dong, move the
West
ball.
Coast.
Yes.
What other team was doing that?
Yes.
Who else was doing that? Nobody. You drop Joe Montana on any other team, we never hear of him.
That's ridiculous, Pinky. He was a household name coming out of college.
And still got drafted in the 3rd round.
So what? So back then, if you didn't get drafted in the 1st round, you weren't going to be a good NFL player? Quarterbacks didn't come from late rounds?
That's the next topic. It's the best value picks of all time, which I have the list.
Okay, but answer my question. Quarterbacks didn't come from late rounds back then? That didn't happen?
No, they do.
So then don't
But
tell
again,
me. Brady was a 6th round
he wasn't a
pick.
household
What's your
name.
point? Brady wasn't supposed to be good in New England. But he still found a way to be the starter and not relinquish the job back to a really good quarterback in Drew Bledsoe. So don't sit here and tell me he wouldn't have at least still found a way to win. He wouldn't have won as much. He would never
have won Super Bowls with any other team.
Nah, I'm not. I won't subscribe to that school of thought, sir. Greatness finds ways to still be great. The greatest ever? No. But still great? Yes. That's like saying Michael Jordan wouldn't have won if he had gone somewhere else. Because Michael ended up in the perfect situation.
I think you could put Michael Jordan on almost every team and he would still win. Because he'd force it. It's completely different.
Dude, the mental aspect of quarterbacking is such a huge part. And those two, that's part of the reason they're considered GOATs is because of the mental aspect of the game.
There's players at quarterback that I believe if you put them on other teams, they would have had success.
Yeah, that's the story of the NFL, though. This isn't the NBA where if you're great, you should be able to win regardless. This is the NFL where they ruin talent because they do. But great still finds a way to shine. Great is still great.
There's a lot of great guys that when they didn't have good coaching, they didn't have a good organization behind them, would not have been great. And if Joe Montana doesn't go to Bill Walsh, I truly believe he would not have been great.
Ooh.
He went to the perfect situation, and Tom Brady went to the perfect situation with Bill Belichick. Because again, for the first 5 to 7 years of his career, he's a game manager. And then he took his game to the next level. He really did. His second half of his career, he's a completely different quarterback, and he's amazing. If you want to say
if they had gone somewhere else, they wouldn't have ever had the opportunity to start and play because the coach wouldn't have allowed them.
I don't think I wouldn't go that far.
But if you're talking about them still being starters for another team in the league for a decade, they're too talented not to win. They're too talented.
I don't think that at all. I don't think we really hear it. Like they make it a couple years and then the team's moved on. They went to the perfect situation with a perfect coach, which is what, unfortunately, that's what a lot of guys need to happen to be successful.
You could argue that about John Elway, dude.
No, I think John Elway goes to any team, they still have success.
There was conversations back then that had he played for other teams, they would have cut his ass because of how bad his first 2 years were. They would have moved on from him. That was the conversation back then, Pinky. The Broncos kept him.
The Broncos still went to the playoffs the first 2 years he was playing. So how bad was he? They went to the playoffs.
Bad. Pinky, go look at his numbers. He was
His
bad.
numbers weren't great, but they still won games and went to the playoffs. So again, I don't think that's
because of the Orange Crush defense, Pinky. Because of the Orange Crush defense.
Orange Crush died in 77, bro. Get out of here. Get out of here with that.
It was Orange Crush Jr., whatever you want to call it. It was a really good defense. That's why they were in the playoffs. It had nothing to do with John Elway and the offense. Let's not. I know you're a John Elway lover, and I am too, but let's not twist history to make it sound like
I'm not twisting history. I'm just telling. And again, my opinion is not the opinion of most, and I am fine with that. I am still going to die on my hill. You won't get me off it. You could tell me all the stats and figures and everything. I believe there's certain quarterbacks, John Elway, Dan Marino,
right? But again,
Peyton Manning.
You're arguing if John Elway had gone somewhere else, he wouldn't have got the opportunity to have a third year in a lot of places. They wouldn't have stuck with him. So John Elway wouldn't have been John Elway. If he had
hold on. How many teams could he go to that have an absolute awful amount of players behind him? If you put John Elway on the Cleveland Browns, the Browns have 3 Super Bowls in the 80s.
Oh, Pinky. You're playing the what if game on both sides.
Pretty bold, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
That's not
bold.
You're
playing both sides of the
Browns
fence.
The Browns went to 3 AFC Championship games in the 80s, Robert.
I mean, yeah.
If they had John Elway as their quarterback, I guarantee you they're in Super Bowls.
Not like Bernie Kosar was bad.
I believe you. For sure.
He's not bad, but he's not John Elway.
He was playing better than John Elway back then.
No, he wasn't.
Yes, he was, Pinky.
He's just playing better
football.
He's playing better football than any quarterback since Otto Graham for the Browns.
Oh, dude.
It is what it is.
We agree John Elway's great. I just don't agree with your take on where you're taking other greats.
I
both sides of the fence when it comes to Elway, and you're not doing it for everybody else.
No, there are quarterbacks that I believe if you pick them up and put them on other teams, they're still successful. And I don't feel that way about everybody. I don't. As we've talked about, situations matter. If you get put in the wrong situation, you could be the most talented quarterback there is and suck. That happens, right? That happened to Justin Fields.
If he stayed with the Colts.
Right? Possibly. I still think he would have made the playoffs with the Colts. He made the playoffs with crappy Broncos teams.
Those Colts teams were really bad, too. I'm just saying.
Situations matter, just like we've talked about.
They does. Matter. And while you want to say, like, maybe John Elway's situation wasn't perfect as far as, like, having a great coach and players around him, it was perfect in the sense that the organization gave him and allowed him the time to develop into something better when there was a lot of articles and things written back then of how they should move on. Elway is a bust. He's not going to get any better. He's not going to be what you hoped he was. So, I'm just saying, like, lenses matter. And just because the talent around you isn't always great doesn't mean the lens is always bad. Like, some people are willing to then try to find ways to make teams around you good. Broncos didn't exactly do that, so that's not what I'm trying to say exactly. Once Mr. Bolin got there, then yes, it was about winning, and the culture changed, and the teams he started trying to put together and things changed, and that became very evident. But I mean,
hey, that's my hill. I'm willing to die on it. We'll move on. So we mentioned it just briefly. I just thought with the draft coming up next week, we got our annual mock draft that we do the day before I leave for the draft. What are the top? I'm going to ask this of Robert because I think you'll get this, Caleb. Robert, can you name the 5 best value picks of all time? Most of these players I know you know. It's just, can you pull them out of thin air?
Pull them out of thin air. RG3 is one?
No. So value in where they were picked and how well they played. So most of these guys are
Tom Brady
late round picks.
Usually the number one person that everybody talks about is best value pick. 6th round.
So all right, so then we'll just go ahead and put that one there. Tom Brady's there.
Tom
Peyton
Brady
Manning,
is number one.
I would say Peyton Manning's on that list.
No, because he's the first overall pick.
Let's talk about Tom Brady for just a sec. Round 6, famous, pick 199. Multiple quarterbacks picked ahead of him. Skipped over multiple times. The only reason why the Patriots drafted him is because he was literally the best player still on their board. And that's why they were like, we should probably take this guy. Even though we have Drew Bledsoe, even though we just paid him $100 million, Tom Brady's the best player on our board. That's why they drafted him.
Okay.
And then he had the balls to tell Robert Kraft the first time he met him, thank you for drafting me. It's the best decision you've ever made.
Hey, gotta be a baller at some point.
Yeah, but all rookies say that when they get drafted and feel the chip on their shoulder. Usually doesn't come true. So good for him that he was able to back it up. But
so I'm gonna throw you a lifeline, Robert. 2 of the players on the list both played for the Broncos. And they were not named Peyton Manning.
Okay, I was about to say,
when you get drafted number 1, you should be Pro Bowler / Hall of Famer. Like the expectations are there that you're just going to be awesome. You don't always match those expectations.
Would Jay Cutler be
given Peyton's hype? He actually did not live up to expectations.
And these are all quarterbacks. I just want to confirm.
No,
these are not. Oh boy, I will probably not be able to
help the man out, Pinky. Give him the list.
I was about to say, I'm like, man.
All right.
You're challenging me a little too hard here. I don't have that vast knowledge yet. It's coming.
And this is Chat GPT. Terrell Davis is number 2.
6th round pick.
1995, round 6, pick 196.
MVP, Super Bowl MVP, 2,000-yard rusher.
Hall of Famer. Like, you got everything from him. Denver got 2 Super Bowls because of him. Third one is I don't know if Caleb could get this one. This guy's from the 60s. According to Chat GPT. He was a 10th round pick, which back then he was pick 129. So you can tell there weren't that many teams at that time.
Damn.
Roger Staubach.
Yeah, he only went that late because nobody wanted to take him because he had to live up to his Navy service before he could come to the league. So that's why he went so late, even though he played for Navy, and at that time Navy was a beast in college football, and he was super talented, but he held his draft rights, but he wasn't going to be there for a couple of years. That was why he went so low. Otherwise he would have been, I mean, didn't he win the Heisman? Isn't Roger Staubach a Heisman winner?
He is a Heisman winner.
Yeah. So he wouldn't have gone that late if it wasn't for extenuating circumstances. But props to Dallas. They were willing to take a hiatus on being good for another couple of years and then know that they could win with him.
He took Dallas to 4 Super Bowls, won 2 of them.
Yep.
And I hold him in high regard.
So as far as value, I would fully agree with that.
And then number 4 is the second Broncos player, Shannon Sharp. Drafted in 1990. 7th round, pick 192. And Shannon Sharp has 3 Super Bowls. Can be argued that he was one of the greatest tight ends of all time.
Oh, that's not a can be. He is one of the greatest tight ends. It's whether or not you want to have him as your GOAT and make that hill stand. I think there's an argument to be made for that. It wouldn't be who I picked, even though I love Shannon Sharp. And that's only because he played before the league really turned to passing. He was on the back end of that rather than the front end. Tony Gonzalez got some prime years in it still, where Shannon didn't necessarily.
But Shannon still had most of the records before Tony broke them. So
that's why I'm saying you can have him. He's easily in the greatest of all time debate. It's you can have him as the GOAT if you want to, and I don't have a problem with you having that argument. That's why.
I would say the tight end GOAT conversation is probably one of the hardest to have. Because the position changed, and then you've got, you've just got a lot of guys that are at one point in their career they were the best, and then another guy came along, and that one, to me, I think that one's super hard to have.
It's a fun one. We should have it. It's a fun one.
And then the fifth one is a guy we've already talked about in this conversation tonight, Joe Montana. 1979, round 3, pick 82.
That's the original NFL stupidity of if you're not 6'5" and 220, you can't play quarterback, because Joe Montana is 6'1", $185 coming out of Notre Dame. Small, skinny is what he was considered, and that's why he went late. It didn't matter how good he was in college at Notre Dame, national championships, none of that. They were like, oh, his size, and he's skinny, and he doesn't have the strongest arm. No, he's just insanely accurate, very intelligent, can make plays outside the pocket, has a lot of these innate abilities to play the position that you can't put on paper with a 40 time, and your dumbass doesn't let him drop. So, yeah, I could see where that would be a great value as well.
So that was the top 5 that ChatGPT had. There's tons of them throughout NFL history, of course. There's even a bunch of guys that you can talk about that are undrafted. But
my very first thought was Rod Smith when you're talking Broncos, but I'm like, no, because he's undrafted, so he's in a different conversation.
Right, right.
Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner was a thought I had right away, but then I was like, no, Kurt Warner wasn't drafted. He's technically an undrafted.
Right.
So that list is also really interesting when you start talking about those guys.
So, yeah, these are all drafted players. And, again, for the Broncos, in some cases, some of their best players of all time, they've traded for or purchased in free agency, not drafted. So
Broncos have never had a quarterback. What was that stat? They've never drafted a quarterback in the first round that's actually won games. I don't remember exact stat, but
wrong.
I know that it's not one game. I just said it's not the exact stat, you dumbass. God, get off my nuts, you asshole.
I don't know what stat you're trying to quote. I do know the Broncos are really bad at drafting. They've drafted one quarterback that has won a playoff game.
They've never drafted a quarterback in the first round that's won a playoff game. Maybe that's what it is.
They did. They drafted one.
Who?
Tim Tebow.
Yeah, he did win a playoff game in the first round.
And he was a first-round draft pick.
Yeah,
that's the only one.
23 or something like that, traded up to do it. Oof.
There's a second Broncos quarterback, I believe, that's won a playoff game, but he didn't win a playoff game for the Broncos.
There's a stat out there. I can't remember what it is. I'll have to go back and look at it. But there's something with Broncos and quarterback draft picks, and it's
They're bad. They're really bad.
Again, should have drafted Justin Fields instead of Pat Surtain. That was still a giant mistake to this day.
I think he's still on the chopping block, even if that happened.
Keeping Vic Fangio as your coach and many other things like you're doing currently. So, wait.
We were having such a good night, and then you wanted to start talking about...
No, you did it. Caleb. You did it by being rude and cruel.
I didn't do it.
If you hadn't done that, it would have been just fine.
The hostility
would have been just fine if you hadn't gone in that direction. Here's the deal, though. In all honesty, for any organization, there are only a very, very small couple, maybe handful of scenarios where trading up is in your best interest when it comes to the draft. And those scenarios are far few between, and one of them involves having extra picks that aren't your original picks to begin with. If you're not in that kind of position, you're not in win now mode, minus one piece, or you don't have an insane amount of cap space that you're just trying to blow for whatever reason, you should not be trading up in an NFL draft, period. And we're about to see a lot of teams do it and make mistakes. And the Broncos could be one of them, or they could go the opposite route and be insanely intelligent and trade back and collect picks and actually try to build back a roster that's insanely depleted, which is what a lot of teams should do as well. So It'll be interesting to see what happens.
So I do want to say I listened to the 5280 podcast earlier, and there was a really, really depressing stat that I think would be funny to you, Caleb. So if Cortland Sutton is traded or released, there will be only one player left from the 2018, 19, or 20 drafts.
Garrett Bowles.
No, he was 17.
Oh.
This one is so off the wall. It's so off the wall. It's too. He's a draft pick. He was going to leave to another team, and we re-signed him to play special teams.
Stewart.
If that helps. Justin Stranad.
Oh, yeah, no, wouldn't have gotten
will
that.
be the only player from the 2018, 19, or 20 draft pick class. That's how bad we are drafting.
Though, it hasn't been any better since then.
No, well, again, you're still giving it time, but again, at the end of the day, Caleb, I'm going to say this: you or I could do a better job drafting for the Broncos than the Broncos actually do, and that's sad. And I'm not even thinking like that's hyperbole. I believe that. I know for a fact.
You got your keyboard warriors. You got your keyboard warriors out there who, whenever they hear that, they're like, "Oh, somebody who does it for a living." Yes. Just because they have a job does not mean they're smart or good at it. It just means they have a job, and that's true throughout history. There are doctors out there who, I assure you, you're not taking your family to get treatment just because they're a doctor.
I've met a couple of them.
Don't make stupid ass. Don't get me started. Some of you people out there are lucky I'm trying to build a brand rather than already have one established. Because if it was already established, I assure you, the scorched earth that you would feel would be something that you would be going to your counselor to speak about. And we don't even know each other. So just be more intelligent.
Overall,
think just a little bit before you speak, especially when you're coming at us with takes or telling us our takes are stupid.
The Broncos draft for at least the last 20 years has been pretty underwhelming. So, all right, let's move on to this year's draft. And just a couple quick hitters. We're just finishing up, but before our mock draft next week, I thought it would be fun to just kind of mention a couple things. Robert, how tuned in are you on this draft?
40%. I've got some time
Fair.
I'm really gonna isolate in on it this weekend. So I got some time, but there's a lot of things I've got going on, so it's gonna require my attention. So it's on my list so I can do that mock draft simulator so I can get some names together. I mean, I know a lot of the QBs, we've kind of already gone through a lot of that, but I'm not in a comfortable position to really speak to any knowledge on it where I'm not going to shoot myself in the foot.
Okay, fair enough. So you chime in wherever you want.
Okay.
Most of the media right now is talking quarterbacks. I mean, that's typically what they do. They talk quarterbacks.
Doesn't hurt that it's a really strong, by all accounts, quarterback draft class. Maybe potentially the strongest we've seen since the 83 draft.
Possibly. Again, it could be the 2021 draft.
Sure, absolutely.
Right?
Or the what was the other really bad, 96 or what was Achilles Smith,
2011 was pretty bad too.
That one was bad too. There's a couple of them that have been hyped and then just
2011 is you had Cam Newton and then you had Jake Locker and Christian Ponder and someone else is really bad. So
it could always go either way, but by all accounts right now, especially with the NFL being smarter with the way they're treating quarterbacks and handling them and building around them rather than forcing them to learn, more of these guys should be successful.
I am more curious, and it's the top 4 guys in my opinion that I'm just so interested in where they go, and it's Marvin Harrison, Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors, Brock Bowers.
Oh, so you went to the wide receivers, pass catchers.
I went I went to the offensive skill positions where I'm just like, I'm really interested in where those guys go. There's a lot of offensive line talent in this draft, a lot of offensive line talent. They're saying there could be 8 to 12 offensive starters, line-wise, from this first round, or potentially. I don't feel that from the defense. I feel like there's a couple, like the defensive draft, like there's just a couple guys you're like, yeah, that guy's going to be good. Yeah,
I
that
think
guy's
the
going to be good.
defense actually is super solid. I don't necessarily see anything maybe elite.
I don't see anything elite.
There's some things there's a couple cornerbacks maybe that could get into that elite status, but that's not a huge need in this year's draft for one, so they're not getting talked about.
Most of
two,
the defensive players, if you put them in other drafts, they'd be behind other guys.
Maybe, but I think you're going to get a lot of starters, a lot of like 7 to 8 year starters out of this draft that fill needs on teams for a long time. They just might not be like all pro caliber guys.
So
they're going to be key pieces that help you fill in what you need.
So when I look at those, I'm like, I'm not as interested in that. I'm interested in like, where do these guys go? And that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, Marvin Harrison, Arizona Cardinals, Kyler Murray, Justin Herbert with the Chargers. Could Marvin Harrison? No way Marvin Harrison gets to 6, but like, there's just like those situations. Does somebody trade up for them? I just saw one. Colin Coward. One of the guys I kind of pay attention to had like the Bears taking Caleb at 1, trading from 9 up to 5 with the Chargers and taking Marvin Harrison.
Be crazy.
And so you have Caleb and Marvin plus Keenan Allen.
A couple years ago and last year, I said the drafts are going to be crazy because of specific scenarios. Turned out to be true. Buckle up, guys, because this year might be the craziest of them all in this first round. I think things are going to get very interesting. I do believe we're going to see 6 quarterbacks go in the first round. Somebody's trading back up to get those 5th-year options on Nix and Penix. I fully believe that. And to me, I'm super interested like you, Pinky, with these wide receivers, but I'm more interested in what happens at the back end of the first round. Where does Nix, Penix, and maybe even Sneaky, because he's kind of projected 3rd round right now. Maybe he sneaks into the 2nd round, but he's not going to be a 1st round. But I'm interested to see Spencer Rattler. His name's been climbing the draft boards.
Yeah, he's the
Nix, Penix as that 2nd group of quarterbacks to go. I'm more interested to see where those 3 go than I am to see where the top 4 go.
Spencer Rattler is the consolation prize of, hey, you didn't get the top 6 guys. Here's this guy.
And talent-wise, he could be right on par with all of them.
There's no telling what would have happened if he didn't have Caleb Williams behind him at Oklahoma. If Caleb Williams is not behind him at Oklahoma and Lincoln Riley has to focus on, I got to make this guy as the best quarterback I can make him, versus like the first sign of trouble, I'm yanking him and going to Caleb.
That's what he did. That's what he did.
What happens, right? So super interesting. And yeah, I'm interested in those guys. And again, the back end, like what wide receivers does Buffalo draft? Does Kansas City draft a wide receiver?
I bet Buffalo does take a wide receiver, just given their situation right now. They're
but I could see both of those teams trading out of the first round, so somebody can trade back in, acquire a couple more picks, and get their wide receiver in the 2nd round where they're better value and not reaching, if you will. There's so many things that
I could see both of those teams trading up.
A movement. The whole bottom half of this draft is going to have movement, and then what happens in the middle? Because the middle could be where you see so much straight talent go, and that's where the guys that traded down or up are coming into play a lot. So oh man, it's gonna be fun.
I'm sitting there looking at things, and I'm like, Denver's got 12, and there's 3 teams, in my opinion, that could use a corner. LA, Rams, the Steelers, and the Eagles, and they're in the 20s, or they're 19, 20, and 22. They could all use Quinyon Mitchell, who's
trade back there, acquire a second, that first, then trade Surtain for like a 2025 first, and then continue to. I would probably then move back again.
There's no way they trade Surtain for less than 2 first.
I'm not saying that's all you're getting. I'm just saying that I wouldn't take a first this year. I would take it in 2025 down the road. I wouldn't take it in this year's draft, the first for Surtain. I would move him for future.
And I love Surtain. I enjoy him a lot. I think he's really great. When you're a rebuilding team with a guy that you're going to have to pay a lot of money to, sometimes it doesn't make.
It's a luxury pick in the NFL, and the Broncos made a luxury pick when they didn't have the luxury to make it. But again, they shouldn't have had the coaching staff or the front office they had at the time. So all around, there was just a lot of mistakes being made. And that happens a lot in the NFL. That's why bad organizations stay bad. And it's rare that they get better because the same ownership is still in place. So the same squeaky wheel, the same bad cog is always there that messes everything else up. So it doesn't matter how good you make everything else. If that one bad piece is still there, it's still going to make everything else have issues. So you're never going to see the full potential. That's what unfortunately Broncos have been working with since Bolin left. They got lucky that Peyton Manning was willing to come here. For whatever reason, he chose Denver over some of the other potential places he could have gone to. Wherever Peyton Manning went, they were going to win games.
Well,
did they get a Super Bowl? Who knows? But wherever Peyton Manning went, they were going to win games. The Broncos were lucky enough that he liked the history of the organization. Maybe him and John Elway got along. I don't know. But if Peyton Manning didn't come to Denver, the Broncos are bad for a long time.
The best thing that Tim Tebow ever did was go on a run, take the Broncos to the playoffs, win a playoff game, which showed Peyton Manning, if Tim Tebow can win a playoff game with this team, I can definitely do that.
Yeah, but again, there was other places like Tennessee had a pretty good roster that he could have won with back then. I remember. I think
San Francisco.
Houston might have been another one when DeAndre Hopkins was still there, I believe.
No, they didn't court him. No.
I think they were in the running. I do.
No, it was Arizona, Tennessee, San Francisco, and Denver were the 4 teams.
But so it's not like Denver had this, and I believe they were the front runner for specific reasons back then that ended up being true. But it's not like Denver had this like obvious choice lead that he was definitely coming here. So if he doesn't make that decision and Broncos get lucky that he picks them, John Elway and Ellis and the likes weren't the reason they won Super Bowls. The reason they won Super Bowls is because Peyton Manning was here and people wanted to play with him.
Right.
So you got to keep that in mind. Broncos fans, we are a bad organization. We are no longer a great place. We are no longer the historic thing that we were. We are bad. And you need to realize that, because the sooner you realize that, the sooner you realize how dire the situation actually is for them to start making good decisions. Because if they don't do it now, they are on the verge of becoming Cleveland, for lack of a better way of explaining it.
Yes.
The difference now versus years ago is now there's an ownership group that's just not going to settle for being
the
bad.
Ownership group is great. And by all accounts, they will do what it takes to win, which is good. The question will be, do they learn from their mistakes?
They better.
And not every ownership group that has money is able to do that. And just throwing money at the problem does not make things better in sports. And that's been proven time and time again. You do have to build an organizational structure. You do have to have the right head coach, front office. You do have to sign really good pieces with complementary pieces. You can't just pay all the greats. So
you got to draft well.
There's things that will go into this. Just because they have a lot of money doesn't mean they're going to be good. It helps. And by all accounts, it sounds like the Walton Penner group wants to listen and learn and do things the right way. So we'll see. But these are things that you kind of have to start being more realistic with when you're talking modern NFL. Broncos aren't the Broncos of old. They're not a great franchise. They're not somewhere where free agents want to go play at this very moment. You know,
unless they're just wanting to get money.
I'm just saying, you know, it's not I know the ownership's going to treat me right. I'm going to be taken care of, and they'll always find a way to win, even if we have a bad year or two. You don't have that necessarily proven out in Denver yet. And you know, the Browns are notorious for that. I believe people look at Dallas that way now. They don't want to be part of the circus, and they know that circus costs wins.
Dallas doesn't spend money on free agents, though. Like they don't.
I'm just
like,
saying, I don't think free agents truly have this desire to go play in Dallas like maybe they once did.
But I don't think Dallas ever like offers them good, fair contracts to come play for them. So
I think they offer fair. I don't think they offer anything that's going to draw somebody there. Oh, what they offer you? Sure, we'll match that. That's not worth the circus of Dallas. I truly believe that's what people feel now. You know, you hear guys like Dalton Schultz coming out saying, I felt like I was in a zoo and on display every day because of tours coming through while I'm trying to do my workouts. So Dallas, yeah, you win games every year, but you don't do anything when it comes to the playoffs.
So
you haven't won a Super Bowl since 95. Like, I think there are things where there's this idea that you're a great organization, but really, if you look at it under a microscope, you're not anymore. And there are some that people may not necessarily believe. The LA Rams are a great organization. I don't know if people would necessarily qualify them as such, though.
I would agree with that.
So, you know, what we've talked about before, there's levels to this. And the more you dive into those levels, the more you start realizing things might not be what they seem. So that's why the draft is so important. Going back to what the original topic was, if you miss on the draft and you keep doing it like the Broncos have or other organizations have and you don't hit, it can ruin you and force you to stay ruined.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I will say, and this is taking orange glasses off, the Broncos are one of the more interesting teams in this draft based on their situation and where they are right now.
I fully agree with that.
Because
there's so many directions they can go. And as a fan, and I've said this to you out loud, Pinky, I have my preference on what I would like to see them do. But they're in a no-win situation as far as I'm concerned, where anything they do in this draft could be good or bad. There's not a real clear direction. You could try to trade up and trade the next 3 years of first and go get Jaden Daniels. Okay. I don't see that being bad. I don't think
if Jaden Daniels is awesome,
bad. Right?
If Jaden Daniels is awesome, we wouldn't care, right?
So
if he's bad, we would probably care.
But even if he's awesome, that could put him so far in the hole that he's never going to have a chance to truly see his potential. And we could be sitting here going, damn, yeah, he's really good, but we have nothing around him. Like, why do we have him? Like, what? We don't want to pay him now. Let him go somewhere else, because if we pay him, we're definitely not going to fill those holes. Like, you know, you could get into that situation too. So the Broncos have so many what-ifs right now, which an organization should never be in the position the Broncos are in, but here we are. They have so many what-ifs that one of the what-ifs isn't even, well, thank God we actually tore it all the way down and we know we're rebuilding. People keep saying, good thing Sean Payton's here and he's torn it down and rebuilt, but he hasn't completely done it. He hasn't done it to the extent that they should.
I feel like we're a little off topic.
If we draft Brock Bowers at 12.
Oh, no, we're exactly on topic, Robert. You just left. And
right.
We are.
Sure.
We are.
If we draft Brock Bowers at 12, that's a full sign of like we're punting on quarterback and we'll see what happens.
It's also a full sign that you're not willing to actually rebuild. That, again, Brock Bowers is a luxury pick. You don't have the luxury to take a tight end at 12. When you don't have a line on either side of the ball, a quarterback, anybody to throw the ball to for the quarterback, you may not even have a running back at this point. You don't have any linebacker strength. I mean, the holes are insane. And if you take a tight end, I don't care if he's a generational talent tight end, he's not going to help you win ball games if you have all these other holes for the next 5 to 6 years. So, again, I say all that. I wouldn't be mad if they took him, though, because there's no bad thing they can do.
I think Brock Bowers is going to be awesome. So
I think they should be doing is trading back and getting as many picks as they possibly can and trying to fill as many holes as they can with quality players. Whether they're starters for you in 4 or 5 years, it doesn't matter. What you do hope is that they're still on a team in 4 to 5 years, because it means they're still talented enough to play for you. And if they're not starting, it means you drafted even better the next year.
And that's what's interesting, because it's a strange dichotomy here that Sean Payton in his history typically trades up, and George Payton in his history typically trades back.
And neither one of them have a great draft track record. So does that?
I mean, I would argue that Payton's draft history in Minnesota was pretty good.
Okay, no, you can't, because he wasn't the one making the picks. He was an assistant. While he was in Minnesota, the draft might have been good, but he wasn't the final voice. He wasn't the one pulling the trigger, so I'm not giving him any credit for any of that.
I mean, I'll give him some due. Rick Spielman mentioned multiple times, and Rick Spielman's out of the game now. He's just talking. He mentioned multiple times George Payton had a lot to do with a lot of their drafts. So,
yeah, well, guess what? That's been proven a complete.
Minnesota's been good. We've been bad. So,
yeah, it's been proven that Spielman's lying through his teeth for a friend over the last 3 years. That's been proven.
Possibly.
Payton doesn't recognize value or talent when it comes to the draft, as far as I'm concerned.
He's had 2 drafts. I mean, we'll see. Robert, what are your final thoughts?
I really need to do some research.
Fair.
No, but really, on a real note, though, I'm really looking forward to this draft after having going over all of this the last several months with you guys. Having it really be a draft I care about per se. I'm excited for it. Ready
and
to
it's
do
in
the
Detroit,
research.
baby.
And it's in Detroit, which, I mean, again, we didn't talk about it. I wasn't going to bring it up. I was actually miffed at the idea that the Red Wings could have possibly got into the playoffs this year. So we can talk about that later. I was actually pretty stunned to learn that, because I know that they've sucked, but
did they miss altogether?
No, they won.
Got in, I thought.
No.
I thought they clinched. Didn't Cody just send us a message that said the Red Wings clinched?
He's at Capitals.
There were some certain things, but anyway, I was excited to read that, because I was a big hockey fan when I was in middle school, because my parents were really into it with Chris Osgood and all of that. I love that lineup, but I really fell out of hockey, so I'm looking forward to getting back into it. Man, Pinky, we can be friends, and you can like the Avs. It's fine. I will. We can disagree on that fact, and that's fine. But no, really though, final thoughts. It was great. Loved this weekend with UFC, especially getting again my wife into it. Maybe I'll have her on and kind of talk about it, and we'll see. But no, it was awesome.
Kings up 16 going into the 4th.
Red Wings are in the playoffs with a win and a Caps loss. If they both lose, Penguins are in.
Yes.
Caps won.
But the Caps won, so the Red Wings are out, and the Wings won in overtime.
So the Flyers win automatically eliminated the Red Wings? Okay.
Cody was posting. The Flyers and Caps were tied with 3 minutes left. The Flyers pulled their goalie, tied.
So
they let the Capitals win that game.
I see that. That's brutal. Ooh,
crazy.
That's brutal.
But anyway, that's where I'm at.
We don't want to see the Red Wings. F the Red Wings.
Bucky Pinky.
I love it.
So there you go.
Caleb?
Look, if you have a moment, go turn on TNT. Watch this game, even though it's starting to turn into a blowout. This is the end of the Golden State Warriors dynasty as we know it. I assure you, one of that big 3 is not going to be on the team next year. I feel very confident about that.
I think we can agree. It's hard to do, but they should trade Steph Curry. They'd get the most for him.
Yes, but I think there's actually a way, if you do it correctly, you can move Clay and Draymond, and with some other pieces, you could still win with Steph.
I don't think they get enough for those 100%. Guys. But...
So I wouldn't trade Steph personally, but I get what you're saying. But that would be completely giving up, where I think Steph's still talented enough where you could win with him. So I think that's the difference. But go watch it. I mean, this is, it's part of sports history. Go check it out. See him one last time if you get a chance. The other thing I'll say is, God, I love the draft. I am so excited for next week. we will do a little bit of our normal sports stuff for the first roughly 30 minutes of next week's show. For anybody paying attention and watching, we'll run through some NBA playoffs and some other things really quickly. And then that next hour and a half is going to be solid first round picks 1 through 32. We will pick it exactly as the order lies on that day. We will not say, I'm going to do a trade here and do this, that, and the other, and this is the values. No, we're just going to pick it straight, but we will discuss in detail where we think it would be most opportune for a team to move. Should they move up? Should they move down? What players are there? What players there aren't? We run it down, and we love it, and it's a lot of fun. So by all means, jump in, talk to us about your favorite team. Tell us what you think. We'll tell you what we think. And next week's a lot of fun for us. And then draft hits Thursday. So let's roll. Everybody, as always, these are my boys. I couldn't do this without them. I appreciate them and love them. If you have family, friends, inner circle, loved ones that you care about and you consider part of that, do not take those opportunities to hang out with them and create moments. Cherish it. Love them. We appreciate all of you more than you know. Thanks for hanging out with us and listening to us. We're out. Peace.
Cheers, guys.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east.
Wife just got home.
Pineapple
I'm taking